So this is Diving in podcast number 3 with Deep Dive Gaming. Today's guest is Genisus, aka Leon, a very good friend of ours over a long period of time. Leon, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. I'm Leon. I'm, I guess, in my employment, a business consultant in cloud transformation and operational efficiency. In gaming, I'm, I guess, most known as a warlock, but I've dabbled in a sort of bit of Shadow Priest and a bit of Mage on Classic WoW as well. Yeah, that's basically me, and I guess we'll find out more as we go.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we've hyped up Leon a bit in our previous
Mm.
podcast, but I think easily to both Pink and I is probably the best player with ever met in WoW, and he is insane at Destro Lock. I mean, you consistently got like insane logs, and I remember you got like a few rank 1 logs back in at least Warlords of Draenor and stuff. I think really
Yeah,
knowledgeable player, so we're definitely going to touch on that as one of our topics coming up. But I guess as a first general topic, I think we want to talk about classic WoW because obviously in
sure.
our past few podcasts we've discussed retail and the positives and negatives to do with that. But I think it's really
Yeah.
interesting to have the perspective of someone who's played a lot of retail throughout their whole life and has now switched to classic, and really has opted to play that version of WoW instead of what it is in its current form, which is kind of shit.
Yeah. So, gosh, what to even say about Classic? I mean, I've always been a stickler. Well, not always, but in the past, I've been a stickler for private servers, actually. So even back in Cataclysm days, Mob days, Wrath of the Lich King days, I'd play on private servers of the previous expansion. So it's always something I've sort of liked, of seeing so much of the unused parts of the game actually in their life forms, and kind of playing through those. But I've never really wanted to commit because you don't know, your progress might just be wiped the next day, right? The server might go down because Blizzard finds it and just shuts it down. So Classic was a nice change from that, to be able to actually trust in your investment and trust in your progress. So I figured, why not? And yeah, I kind of went from there.
That's a good point. Do you think it's like for you it was really just a nostalgic thing for you, or do you actually prefer like the elements of gameplay to it as opposed to retail?
Um, so I think it's two different video games, to be honest. It's a matter of preference. Like, WoW's evolved so much that like the classic version isn't the same game. It's got the same kind of shell. It resembles, like, you find some similarities, but actually, like, when it comes to the design, like design principles and pacing specifically, it's completely different. It's much slower. It's all about delayed gratification, and it's all about your journey rather than the outcome, if you know
So
what I mean.
Yeah, so that's actually a good point, right? Because a lot of people, even in current World of Warcraft, are kind of like they're upset at systems that are
Yeah.
being introduced patch by patch, and that kind
Yeah.
of are there to pull at people to continue playing, right? So you've got corruptions, you've got Azerite power, artifact power, all this kind of systems that make you log in every day and do something
Mm.
and get something. So, like the philosophy you're saying, the difference there being that delayed gratification and journey versus moment to moment, let's get something, go go go, like goal oriented.
Yeah, it's like, to me, I think WoW's gotten faster and faster and faster. Like, I honestly, logging into BFA, have never seen a game that just is so quick. Like, you log in and shit just jumps
mhm.
at you, like your world quests, you're this, you're LFR, you're that, you're behind on these 200 things. Go fucking do stuff. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys! I just logged in. Can I fucking, like, set up my spells and open up my character menu, look at, like, to do something? It's like, no, it's like fucking boom, 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 do this, do that, do that. I'm just fucking overwhelmed. I just log off. Like, and this is
Yeah,
an experienced player.
I can relate so much with you because I literally started playing the game again like maybe a bit over 2 months ago, and I logged in and I was just like, "Hey, Pink, what the fuck is going on, dude? What are corruptions? What are essences? What is Azerite? What is going on, dude?" I had no idea. I know, like, for me, who I would like, and I would consider myself a veteran player to a degree. Like, I've always been the kind of person to do like nearly all the content, mythic rating and all that stuff, and it was enough of like an information overload for me to even consider just giving up and like going back to League because it's fucking
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I
uh,
can see that.
I
But
logged in. I've got a necklace. I've got a cloak. Right. I'm behind on those systems. I'm behind on corruptions. I'm behind on these, like, I don't know, quest lines, which I don't know if they're relevant or not, if they need doing. So I'm literally just like, guys, what the fuck do you want me to do?
Yeah,
It's like, oh, you just Mythic Plus, you kind of just get there. It's like, okay.
and then you're right, because like it took me maybe 2 weeks to get to like 465, which like, and you can do it in much less time, but it just shows that the game is so fast paced, because within that time frame, I not only had to like understand all the different systems that were in place, but then getting the gear was fucking easy. And like the funny part is, when I actually got the gear, I just learned that it didn't even matter, because being behind on all those separate systems is really what contributes to your DPS. I had to wait like a month just to get all my essences rank 3, right? And then there are some that I still don't have. And then I kept getting shit corruption, so my DPS was kind of low because of that. And on top of that, you kind of got to min-max a bit for your Azrael gear, and it's so many layers on top of each other that it feels like eye level doesn't matter anymore.
It's too confusing to feel important, right?
Yeah, and there's too many things.
You're just baffled. You're like, what the fuck even makes me strong, right?
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
exactly.
Do my wrists matter? Does my weapon matter? Does my trinkets matter? I don't fucking know.
And the worst part. No, go ahead.
I had to dab for the stream.
Yeah, no, I was saying in Classic, like, I literally sometimes open my character screen just to look at my leggings. I'm like, oh, these fucking Artemis leggings are fucking sick. I've got the Zulgur enchant on them. I just want to look at them. Like, they're just beautiful. Like, I just open up my character screen, look at them, I close it up. I fucking earned that. Like, I fucking earned that, right? Like, I had the shittest blue legs for 4 months, and now I've got these bad boys, and I'm good, right? And I can feel the damage. I can feel next time I cast a crossbow, I'm going to fuck someone up.
Right? Yeah, that's so different from current WoW, because you get a new piece of gear, and then that's like the 50th fucking like item you have in your bags of gear from Mythic Plus and raids and your corruptions, and then you have to plug it into your sim, and it's just not even fucking obvious to you if it does more damage. Like, it should be obvious if you get a piece of gear that it's better, but like, you have to sim so much.
Are the sims even computing this stuff correctly anymore?
Yeah, they are. They are. They're really advanced.
I don't know how long it's going to be, like, when the compute power is just not there anymore, like, to calculate this RNG over many...
Nah, let's be honest, if the compute power wasn't there to sim it, then Blizzard couldn't run those things either, because Blizzard needs to compute that as well in order for it to work.
I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm getting at is, like, where the fuck is coming from? Like, equip this, unequip that, or what if I use my shoulders with this staff with that ring? Oh, what if I use that other ring with this other trinket? It's like, how many permutations do you need to get at to get your fucking maximum sim? You don't even know. That's been a problem longer. Like, now I just wouldn't even try. Just equip what I think, wouldn't even care.
It's crazy. The worst part of the whole thing to me is, though, that you need to have all of it to be relevant, right? There's no there's no option to say, okay, I'm going to engage with this system this week and the other system next week. You have to either jump in and do all of it at once, or you're just fucked behind.
Yeah. And you know what felt bad for me was when I logged in, I went into LFR just to get some gear, because I was honestly confused about all the systems and how to even acquire it. And I got Infinite Stars rank 2 on my 430 LFR belt. And I didn't know what it did. But it was better than my 475 belt, which I got in my weekly chest. And that felt bad, dude. I come back into the game, I'm like, yes, I got my first 475 belt from the chest. Oh, I can't use it because I've got Infinite Stars on a really low eye level one.
Which doesn't really change how you play. It just kind of drops some Infinite Stars
onto damage, which is completely proper. By the way, guys, just for YouTube, if you see me dab, it's because I've got a channel point thing on my stream, and everyone's fucking spamming it, so I have to dab. Fuck's sake. All dabs after the podcast now. Fuck you guys. Alright. No more dabbing. Jesus Christ. It's getting spammed.
Yeah. We're going to build up a bit of a dabbing backlog.
Yeah, it's alright. But I agree with you. I think, and for me, it's weird because I'm not sure I could really enjoy the delayed gratification system in Classic. When I log on, I almost expect a piece of gear. I've really become hardwired and tuned to, kind of just acquire this stuff. When I log on, I want to go into a dungeon and farm for that junkyard ring or do this and that, and there's an expectation, and I can see it being really difficult for some retail players going into Classic and then waiting months for a new piece of gear, because it feels like I imagine it feels like shit if you're just going that long without progress.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's kind of like going from like a chemical upper or some kind of chemical substance to like daily exercise. It's like, oh, like daily exercise, it doesn't feel as good as you're doing it, right? But actually, in the long run, like it's the returns are just so much greater. Because it's just part of, I'm sure it's part of human psychology is to want what you can't immediately have, right?
Yeah, grass is green on the other side, right? That's why you don't go
course,
after
yeah.
girls with boyfriends.
That's what keeps you playing classic, dude. It's because you're like, oh, I've yet to do this. I've yet to get that item. I've yet to get that rank. I've yet to do that raid. Like, and you keep playing, even if what you're doing in the meantime doesn't immediately contribute to that goal. You'll keep playing because you just want to get on that other grass, dude.
But would you argue that it's also the case for retail though, to a degree? Like, sure, there are all these. You're getting so much gear in retail as it is, and I think I've heard Asmongold say that if you halved the amount of loot you get in retail, then there would still be too much loot dropping. Even then, I think a big like kind of draw of retail is that you're always shooting for like that 479 perfect corruption, like an absolutely perfectly kitted character. Like I've been playing for 2 months straight, and yeah, like I have a few ults and stuff. But I'm still trying to get to that point, you know? Insane eye level, insane corruptions, insane everything. It's still a grind, and definitely not in the same way that Classic is, but it's like a grind of getting lots of really good items, but you're kind of cycling through all of them to get the best ones possible.
It's those minor optimizations and the lack of like, look, I understand why they have these systems. It's hamster. You're like a little hamster, right? Like you never quite get to the end of the journey.
That's a good point.
Which keeps you playing. But like I'm saying, like those systems are frustrating because they're too quick and they're too out of your control. And not only that, they're too they don't interact with the way you play the game that much. Like
it's true.
You don't. I don't know. You see your numbers on the weekend, but you have no control.
I think something that adds to this is like emergent gameplay, because Classic has so many emergent systems, just stuff that happens because you're doing stuff, right? Like you'd have people just going on to do some role play, even though they didn't plan to do any role play stuff, right? They're not a role player, but they just fell into it.
You have the space they can breathe,
exactly, and it's because that kind of stuff just happens in Classic, because like sometimes you can do stuff that doesn't contribute to your goal, like you were saying, right? You might not be actively working towards your next upgrade, but you're doing something that's fun because you fell into it. I think in retail that doesn't happen much, because the next piece of your goal is always quite close because it's a quicker system. So like you said, if you're farming for that junkyard ring, you're not going to fall into RP randomly. You're going to go and grind junkyard keys, right? And in Classic, you can't do that. So that's why emergent systems in Classic might be more interesting and more fulfilling.
I guess so, yeah, for sure, 100%. It's. I mean, for me, another big reason I play is I know TBC is coming. I know that's another topic, but TBC is coming on the back of it, and it's like I feel meaning to my gameplay because I know TBC is going to be good. I don't know if Shadowlands is going to be good, right? We're going to talk about it later, but it's just another thing where you get a bit of meaning derived from your progress.
Right.
Well, in a certain way, I guess. Which you probably do in retail as well, but it's just another thing that adds to my liking. That makes sense. I guess.
So, so right now you're grinding for rank 10, right? And this has definitely been consuming your life, I would say. So if anyone that doesn't know, Leon's like been my best friend for like at least like 12 years or something now, long fucking time. You've been very, very into Classic and that rank 10 grind. And we were talking before, and you mentioned that you figured out the calculations on how much you have to grind per week to get rank 11. What's the deal with this? Why? Just why?
So look, let me just. This might be one of my rants as to how it all works, right? So it's like honor grinding in WoW is all about your battle group. It's all about the brackets. Depending on what server you're on, that's completely gonna vary your game time requirements and grinding requirements to get up in the ranks. I'm actually luckily on a server that's on the lower end of that on Earthshaker, where I don't need to, like, it's not as competitive and it's not as cutthroat in terms of getting really high amounts of honor to be better than other players, as it is on some other battle groups and other servers. So that immediately provides you, like a player like myself, I cannot honestly give the game more than like 20, 25 hours a week, and that's already pushing it. But and all of that time needs to be in battlegrounds basically. But that's just enough to get me to rank 10. So for those who don't know, the way that ranking works in Classic, it's super complicated math system. But essentially, what it is the higher you climb, the harder you fall each week, right? So with each kind of rank that you get and each step that you progress, you decay as a proportion of your total progression each week. So the higher up you go, the more you need to grind the next time around to compensate for the decay that's coming at you next week. So when you step off the ladder and you don't play for 2 weeks, you fall back down a couple ranks. So you lose and you fall back a lot quicker than you rise up. So people
That's
rank
pretty
in bursts.
intense.
It's intense, right? So I'm not an intense PvPer. Like there's people on my server that I go to pre-mates with and stuff that are going for rank 14. So these guys are online 18 hours a day in pre-mates in queue. They're never offline. Even when they're taking a break, they're in the queue for the next one, and they have to do that for 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get to where they need to be, and
So,
that's
so I have a
full time.
question. So is it really? Maybe I've like understood wrong too. But to me, it sounds like, and you know, based on previous conversations we've had, it sounds like it's more a matter of how much you play as opposed to how well you play. Is that true or not really?
Yes and no. It's both. So the better you play and the better the people you play with, the less you have to play for the same amount of honor. So if you're really shit at the game, you're going to struggle to get into a good group. First of all, if you don't get into a good group and you suck, the amount of honor you're going to get per hour ain't going to be good enough, even if you're playing 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So it does actually matter. And I actually think that the skill cap in classic WoW PvP is fairly high. Like I would say, I'd say because a lot of people confuse with raiding, where you go in and the boss falls over from you pressing frostbolt the whole time, versus PvP, where you get to use pretty much every single spell in your spell book,
That's a good
sometimes at
point.
different ranks, right? And it's super situational. There's professions, there's engineering coming into play. Your rocket boots, your like mind control cap, your sapper charges you might be throwing at people. There's like really interesting itemization choices that you can make. With tankiness versus like burst, hit versus crit. All this stuff is like going to influence how well you do.
Okay.
So it's about how much you set up your character and how well you play and who you play with.
So that actually leads me into my like next kind of question. But because you've predominantly been a PvE player in retail, and for a long time, I forgot. Since when did you start playing? Was it Cataclysm?
I started playing in Burning Crusade.
Burning Crusade. Okay, and you've predominantly been a PvE player, right?
Yes, I'd say so.
So what's it like going from being a predominantly and very good PvE player to just fully committing to PvP in Classic? Has it been boring? Has it been annoying? Or has it actually been kind of refreshing?
Good question. I think. Well, okay. First of all, let's go back a step. I've never been like an only PVE player. Even when I have been PVEing, I've always loved doing arenas in between, as I have done with you guys, obviously.
Yeah. We used to crush it, dude. I forgot what rating we ever got to. I want to say 2K, but
yeah,
I think I'm
got
making it up
2K,
in my mind.
It's 2v2, right? So it's not serious balance PvP. I still find it fun. I used to also PvP a lot on private servers. So when I played private servers, I was exclusively for PvP. But I never took it too seriously because I just found arena too sweaty at the highest echelons.
Okay.
Like it's so much effort, and I just didn't feel like the payoff there was there for me when I won a game versus how much I needed to sweat to win that game, especially with the classes I was playing. But Battlegrounds and Classic are very different to Arena. I couldn't really compare it to modern PvP at all. Even to Burning Crusade PvP is not really comparable. It's more of a it's a progression system, right? It's going up steadily as long as you play enough and you play well, and you'll get your rewards at the end of it, and as you go. To be fair,
see, the reason I don't really I don't really care for PvP as a whole, to be honest. But I do enjoy doing arenas, whether it's 2s or 3s. And the reason I prefer that is because I feel like I have more control over my victories as opposed to in Battlegrounds. And I don't know how many people there are on Battlegrounds and Classic, and I honestly don't know how PvP as a whole even functions compared to retail. But like, how do you find that distinction in Classic? Do you feel like you have a lot of control over Battlegrounds? Do you enjoy them? And like, how would you compare PvP to retail?
It's more similar to raiding than to arena because you're either in a pre-made, i.e., in a guild, right? Like same shit,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or you're with pugs in your battleground. You have no control over how well it all goes. You can almost guarantee that in a pug, it's gonna go worse than it would in a pre-made or in retail and rating, like in a guild.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's that. It's. Do you feel individually you can carry a game? Yes, you can, but in classic gear matters a lot, and not everybody has access to the best gear. And if you're lacking in gear, it's going to be really hard for you to carry. You can still do a lot of good stuff, and if you have like pre best in slot or like almost best in slot, you can do even more.
Okay.
But ultimately, when you get into games against some of the better pre-mates, I don't know if you guys know Monkey News. He streams on Twitch.
No.
I played it. He's the best. He runs the best classic WoW pre-made to my knowledge on Alliance, and we queued up a game against his team, and we just
Oh,
got
shit.
stomped. Like they were all rank 14s before in full like high
Wow.
warlord and all that,
Wow.
whatever the equivalent, right? So we just got rolled, and it's not only because they were geared, they were also good, but that combination you can't beat. If a team is geared and they're good, if you're not both of those things, you have no chance. Or you can
Makes
be good if
sense.
you're not good, you won't win. You can be
Okay.
good if you're not good, you won't win. Like
Makes
it's
sense.
just that. So there's a lot at play. I mean, for me, I'm looking forward to the end of the grind because I do feel like Classic is a healthier game to enjoy when you pace yourself. Whereas in the PvP system, the game paces you. It's like
Right.
if you
That's a good
it's kind
point.
of treadmill goes
You
quicker,
have to
quicker,
keep
quicker,
up. You have to keep up.
and the treadmill keeps speeding up. The each rank you go up, right?
Yeah, of
So you got to run
course.
faster to
You know, you're
compensate.
in a boxing session and you've got no energy left, and your trainer tells you it's just another 30 seconds left. So you're frantically, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
and then
Your
you
boss
hope you don't
tells you
die.
to turn your camera on so you can't be in fucking battleground. And your girlfriend tells you to go watch a movie. Like you just fucked, dude.
Yeah, so Leon, one of our mates, he was actually on the podcast last week, but he asked, what was your greatest achievement in retail? From your perspective.
My
Obviously,
greatest.
yeah, obviously he rated like so. For everyone that doesn't know, because I see a few people asking just who Leon is. Maybe they missed the start, but Leon is has been a very good friend of both Pink and me for a very long time, and been my best friend for ages. But he also introduced me to WoW, and he's easily the best WoW player I think I could say for both of us that we've ever met. And he always raided with us in our guilds, which have mostly been casual mythic progression. And we have been gone cutting edge before, but Leon's always kind of been on the top. So, what are like some things you're
Um,
proud of or your
Yes.
achievements?
um, guys, I haven't played retail for a long time, so I'm drawn to saying like the friends and relationships I found. But if you guys want to know like gameplay wise, it's pretty hard to say. To be honest, if you were to just ask me what am I most proud of, I'd say it's from my mechanical performance overall in any time that I've rated and played. I'd say the best times that I've had was probably in Warlords of Draenor on my Warlock.
Yeah,
We were in Blackrock Foundry, and I later did a bit of Hellfire Citadel on my Warlock, getting a pretty good way through Mythic, not completing Mythic because I wasn't dedicated enough in terms of my time investment and things like that. But I think just continuously outperforming anyone else that played my class, even when I had less gear, and getting into the high 99 percentiles into the
yeah.
pink bracket
Your
in
logs
the
were
logs.
very consistently high. You had 99 logs on every single boss, I think.
Yeah, in my item level bracket, I tended to be in the pink percentile, which is like as high up in it's like
Yeah.
99.9995.
I think you got a rank one log on. What was the rock guy with the hands?
Oh, Comrock or something.
Comrock.
What was
Yeah.
his name?
Yeah, I'm pretty
it,
sure
was
you
a
got. I'm
funny,
pretty sure you got rank one on that.
it was a funny kill because half of our raid, I'm pretty sure, was locked out of the fight or
Yeah,
something.
what? You were just
You
killing with the
was.
hands, dude.
You
And,
got
like,
high log because you've had it, man.
well, all I'm saying is I couldn't do that with the current Destro lock, which you're just you're in the hands of bad class design, right? So you can't really do much.
Yeah,
Like you can pop your cooldowns and pop Cataclysm and like splurge a Rain of Fire, and then like anyone else would have done that. Whereas
yeah.
with Fire and Brimstone and Shadowburn sniping, you could do some really fun stuff,
Okay,
right? If,
so
if you knew how to utilize Fell Flame and Mob, in between, like whether it's on Thok, the boss in Siege of Orgrimmar, whether it's just in between sort of movement requirements that the fight might have, it differentiated you. You got more embers, you got more chaos bolts out, and ultimately it ended up you ranking 99 rather than 97 potentially.
Yeah.
But it's but again, guys, logs aren't everything at the same time, and like there's times that I went for logs and fucked up the fight, right?
It's true. I mean, I for one consistently get 9% logs on my fire mage every single fight.
Mm.
It's fucking easy. Consistency is
Mm.
key. But obviously, like we really actually want to talk about Destruction Warlock and Shadow Priest class design a bit later. But actually, I'm really curious about this classic stuff. So I wanted to ask. I think I had like a few more questions, but what is the ambition or what is the drive for you in getting that like specifically rank 10 or rank 11? Like, why does it matter to you? Like, how is it gonna kind of affect your gameplay in classic, and how is it gonna like what are the like rewards you're getting for each rank, and why is it so important?
Okay, so you get so by the time you reach rank 10, you get the blue set. It's the blue PvP set for classic. The mage 2 set is really really good to have. It gives you a lot of spell power, which is like the main thing a mage wants to have.
Okay.
When I get the head and the shoulders, those are actually going to be outside of rating, probably the best that I can get. And yeah, I mean, and if you have that head and you have those shoulders, people that click on you, they can tell that you got to rank 10, and they can tell that you're in that top, like, single digit percent of the player base. So you're in it. I think by rank 10, you must be in the top 4 to 5%, maybe between 3 and 5% potentially.
Okay.
And maybe even 2% of people. And like I said, you could say it's all time investment. It's not all time investment. Like some people can just get carried just by playing nonstop. But it's just identity, right? It's identity. Oh, I'm on the server. I've played in a heck of a lot of pre-mates. Some of them have been from my guild. So it's this community stuff over time. It really builds, and it'll be the same people I ranked up with that I see later in Orgrimmar. I'm gonna say what's up to because like we fucking got up there together, right? And people are gonna click on me. They're gonna be, oh, this guy's fucking got rank 10. The guy's rank 10's like it's way more attainable than like some of the shit other people are doing 11, 12, up to 14. But it is that bit of class identity. Like, yeah, I fucking did it. I've like, and for me personally, in a funny way, having real life limitations with my my job, relationship, in some ways, right? You have to like make time. Yeah, it's like, oh, I still got rank 10 and I'm still still good. It's an identity thing.
Okay, cool. So it's like a big achievement. So you were talking about like knowing people from like pogs and premates and stuff. Have you actually made any friends from playing classic? What do you think of the community overall? Because from my limited understanding of classic, I've heard that the community is just utter shit. What's your take on that?
Gosh, so I really really thought so. Even a while back, I would have told you that myself. That in general, classic community is extremely toxic. That it's extremely elitist, and they optimize the fun out of the game. Right? That's the general sense. Like classic wasn't created to be optimized and for you to just run through like molten core with flasks and world buffs and everything.
Makes sense.
And like all the shit like. So it's true to an extent that people do play the game now differently. The community's a bit different. I think the community pockets are still very much alive and real and nice to be in. I haven't made any specific friends because WoW doesn't serve that niche in my life anymore.
Okay.
It's a game I use a little bit more at the moment to have me time. So when I'm sort of playing for my me time.
Have you heard of Pornhub?
I've heard of it, yeah. I heard the website exists.
That's my me time.
I'm sure you just heard about it. No, but like that whole optimize the fun out of it is interesting to me, right? Because everyone back in when Classic was, the current game, no one knew what the fuck was going on. No one understood the theory crafting side of stuff. Now there was obviously attempts at theory crafting, right? Elitist jerks and all those kind of things, but it wasn't very developed, and people were kind of just like new at it. Nowadays, obviously, everything is like super detailed, super like worked out. Everyone knows exactly what to do, what stat does what, percent increase, whatever. How do you think that actually affects like the difficulty of Classic, but also just how the gameplay systems interact? Because you had people back then in blues, and they couldn't clear raids, and now you have literally level 56s in greens killing Ragnarok, right? So.
Very good question. So I'll first answer it from a preference perspective before I go into difficulty and systems. I think from a difficulty perspective is I'll give you guys an anecdote, like an example of how my guild does it is I'm an optimizer through and through. Like I love optimization in games. I want to get the biggest bang for my buck. Even if I'm not the best geared, I'm going to make sure everything I've equipped is as optimal as it can be.
Mhm.
But for me, the sense of identity weirdly is stronger, where like I don't identify as a hardcore optimizer. Like that's just not me. So what my guild does, for example, is there's raid cross and there's raid moon, two raid teams, right? It's a pretty
Right.
big guild, 40-man raids, right? But raid cross is hardcore. So these guys requirements are up there, like with the guys that want to speed run Blackwing Layer in under 40 minutes. You know, it's the guys that want to flask up for those raids. It's the guys that must get all the world buffs before they go in. You know, it's the guys that must mute their microphones in Discord to make sure, like, until they can get a consistent, smooth runs going, basically stuff like that, right? And then there's Raid Moon. These guys are going to clear Blackwing Layer in an hour and a half instead. So the difficulty in classics actually speed running and rating, right? That's the whole difficulty. AQ might change that. Mix might change that. But it's like, well, I'd identify with Raid Moon because those guys are taking it a bit more chill, taking it a bit more slow. Their requirements are a bit relaxed. They're optional. Like your gear requirements are a little bit looser. The raid's gonna take longer, but hell, like I'm gonna have more fun.
Yeah, no, I definitely prefer that too. For me, I've said it before, it's all about the social environment. Just making friends with people. And like obviously sometimes there's drama and stuff in guilds, but I reckon if you can just have a good time with people and then get some progress as like a secondary kind of benefit, then that's the best of both worlds, right? So for
Yeah.
me that first was a cross team sounds like shit because I don't want to fucking enlist in the army in my spare time. You know,
And
like
some people do. You know, some people they do want they get. It depends on what your personal needs are in terms of how you want to express and validate yourself in this world. And you know, some people choose to do it through gaming. I have in the past tried to express my dedication and excellence through WoW, right? And some people still do that. I understand it. I've done it before. My identity isn't that anymore. So I think it's about alignment of your identity.
yeah.
It's like my identity is I wanna get this out of the game, so I'll do that. But the good thing is it's a choice in classic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people want different things, right? And that's why, like,
Yeah.
casual mythic progression guilds like ours exist, and hardcore guilds, and then even just the guilds that want to do, heroic raiding or PvP or mythic plus. Like, there's plenty of different ways to play the game, and it all comes down to how your values align with what you want to do. And then you try to find your spot in that community. Not everyone wants to grind fucking plus 25 mythic keys, right? Because other people are scared to even do a 15. But it doesn't really necessarily stop you from trying to explore those things, and it's just about like I think to a degree, like playing every aspect of the game is really healthy and it broadens your horizons a bit. But like
Yeah.
what is there in classic? Is it just is it just raiding and like battlegrounds, or what else can you do? Is there, like is achievement hunting a big thing?
So for everyone's different. You know, some people just play to farm Black Lotus. Now the market's recently crashed, which is a bit funny. So there was a massive sort of change they're bringing in into increasing the spawn times and banning all the bots. But some people will literally just play to farm Black Lotus. For me, I think the main levers of gameplay in Classic are leveling, gold farming,
Yeah,
PvP, raiding, and God, I guess for some people RP, right? I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I
Those
was
are the main ones, but ultimately for me, it's Burning Crusade readiness. I wanna get into Burning Crusade and be able to afford my epic flying round when I ding 70.
right.
You know,
So
that's my ultimate goal. Yeah.
So I have like a peculiar question, right? And like I think obviously I'm framing myself as someone that doesn't even know classic, and I haven't even attempted to look at it. But recently I was speaking to a friend I went to high school with because he's been playing a lot of classic WoW, and he was talking to me about how the game itself feels much harder. You go into retail and you pull like 20 mobs and you just slaughter them, whereas in classic you have to be pulling one out at a time, and that leveling experience is very much like delayed gratification, like you said, but it's also challenging, right?
Mm.
Obviously, people are better at the game now, and I don't think many people actually regard classics content as being difficult now, especially at like the max level high end content. What do you think of that? Do you think it really is just a nostalgic, old school MMO type of feeling which draws people, or do you think it is actually challenging in the leveling process? Sorry.
Is so if your question is leveling challenging, the answer is it depends on your class. I was a mage, it wasn't challenging, right? So but someone was a warrior and it was challenging. And
Okay.
the challenge comes from you not physically being able to outplay what's happening to you.
Okay.
In retail you can most of the time outplay, but in classic
That's a good point.
it's numbers, right? It's numbers.
So-
Those two mobs will kill you because they do this much damage and you have this many buttons and you have this much health and you're gonna die.
Right. So it's much simpler.
So there's an old video series. I don't know if you remember Yahtzee, the like game reviewer guy, and he described MMOs back then as a boot kicking contest where you kind of just, you stood there with your size boots, the mob stood there with his size boots, then you kick him, and the mob kicks you back, and you just back and forth, and the one with the bigger boots just wins.
That's actually a good analogy. Now you have so many buttons in retail that you have so many more tools to easily like get through the leveling system.
Yeah. Yeah, well, guys. I mean, like it's a different game. Like it's a completely different. You'll get out of it something completely different to the retail game. So you can try to draw parallels, but honestly, the game's just different. It's a different video game experience.
All right. Well, I wanted to make. Sorry,
yeah.
you finished your sentence, but
No, that's it. That's what I was
okay,
gonna say.
okay. Yeah, so I wanted to make one last comparison between Classic and WoW, because I think it's an important one. So obviously, like every professional WoW gamer, not that I'm a professional, but like every degenerate like me, I watch Asmongold Gold because it's funny and it's got a lot of insight into both Classic and retail. And I always see a lot of people asking him, I just got into the game, should I be doing Classic or retail? What's your take on that? Do you think Classic is better for new players? Do you think they should be looking to jump into retail and prepare for Shadowlands? Or do you think they should really get a feel of the game by, grinding through Classic? Because you did mention it's an entirely new game, but which might be better for preparing for Shadowlands or just for a new player in general?
Guys, I don't know how good it is to jump into BFA now, but I'm not jumping into it, so my personal recommendation would be to wait for Shadowlands. I don't see any appeal to BFA whatsoever with its broken systems, unless you have friends that you want to go and join, or specific things you want to prep and achieve for Shadowlands. That's my personal view. Maybe for a lot of people, you guys actually play the game. You know what's good and what's bad, and for you, it weighs up, and the good's better than the bad. And I played WoD, right? I played pretty much the whole expansion, and it was on paper bad expansion. I still fucking loved it because I had the community I enjoyed playing with.
I liked WoD. I don't understand why people think it's a bad expansion.
Wasn't it one of your second expansion, right?
Yeah, true. It was my first new expansion.
Yeah, sure. So WoD had the class design. There was a bit of pruning, but it was mostly still fine.
Legion was good.
I think, yeah, Legion was
Right.
good as well.
I actually think WoD, looking back, isn't that bad. The start of WoD was horrific, right? The start of WoD where you're kind of locked in your garrison, there wasn't anything to do. High Mall was kind of a shitty raid. It was okay, but it was
Yeah,
I liked only like 3 fights in that raid. I liked Butcher, I liked Brackenspore, and I liked the twin bosses, like where there were 2 of them inside.
yeah.
shout out Ultrasonics, by the way. That's my boy.
Ultrasonics. Was that the guy that played with his feet? Or was that someone else?
Yeah.
Really cool guy. But yeah, I think WoD literally was a bad expansion to start with, and then a lot of people were like, "Oh," and kind of left it. So then, looking back, people didn't like it, and they compare it to, Legion or all these other expansions that came out as well, and it just doesn't feel right. But if you stuck with WoD, it was actually kind of interesting.
Blackrock Foundry was a fantastic raid.
Oh yeah, it was.
Oh my
One
god!
of the best raids ever
I've
made.
said before on the podcast, but Blackhand is my favorite fight to date. It was so fun. I think a lot of the fights in that raid were really great. I mean, just watching people die on the fucking train boss was funny enough, right?
Oh yeah. Train boss was funny. Actually, I liked the raid a lot. Did you guys remember Acid? It was another warlock that we had. He played demo mainly, but he was also Destro. He was really, really good. Like, it's the first warlock I played with where I felt like real, like, fire under my feet. Like, the guy was competitive. Like, he was good. And he was definitely better at demonology than me, no doubt. I think I still edged him out on destruction overall, although he beat me on like a couple fights. But I like that raid a lot from that angle. I saw somebody, I'm like, okay, I want to compete with this guy because that just hasn't happened that often with warlocks for whatever reason. Even in some of the kind of random great guilds I've joined, right? Oh, I just want to get progress in HFC. So and it's still I joined them. They don't have any good warlocks, and at that time I was like, shit,
Yeah.
this guy's good.
Yeah, fair enough. I never actually did HFC, but like, was the expansion still strong there? Or I can't remember because obviously our guild had fallen apart by then.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was how to say. It was a bit different to BlackRock Foundry. My experience was different because I wasn't playing with my friends. I actually joined like one of the top 10 guilds on the server at the time, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the whole experience of playing got a bit hardcore, and the guild actually disbanded a couple months
really?
after me joining. But I actually think it was a decent raid tier. I didn't have too much against it. The whole ring was a bit weird. The way that you'd like press the ring and then
Oh
like
yeah.
it would be damage and then it would explode and like kill everything.
Weren't there
Yeah,
some
did you do that like
bosses that
crazy
just...
stuff where you pulled all the trash of the boss room onto the boss to charge the ring and one shot the boss?
I think we did that stuff. Yeah,
That's what I was
Alright,
gonna
so-
mention. It's so ridiculous.
it's a bit funny, but honestly, I just loved my I honestly love WoD because I loved my class. Like Destrelok felt great to me. Like even with Charred Remains being a bit of a meme, right? It's
Yeah.
still like yeah, Chaos Ball does all your damage and whatever. But
So
like,
can you explain just for
you can
like
AoE with it.
just for people like what was Child of Remains, like how did it work? Because honestly I'm forgetting as well.
Oh, okay. So the way Charred Remains works is very simple. So at the time you had Embers, now you have Soul Shards. Same thing, right? So all of your Warlock spells that don't consume Soul Shards now do no damage, but generate a lot of Soul Shards, right? So if you conflagrate something, you're gonna get 2 Soul Shards or two Embers or something,
Okay.
and boom, you can cast a Chaos Bolt, and your Chaos Bolt damage is great. So your damage profile just basically becomes Chaos Bolt. But actually, as far as the gameplay, the way you weave your generators, even when they do no damage, it'll definitely change how you perform. Like I'll take kind of Beast Lord Darmak as an example in Blackrock Foundry. If you knew how to snipe a nice, fire and brimstone flag on the wolves, and then throw in, AoE Chaos Bolt with like Shadowburn snipes on the end of it, like you're swimming, and it's like okay, Conflag didn't do any damage, but it generated you the resources to do your other shit.
Okay.
So it was a bit of a funny.
So my
little,
memory on Warlock is really bad. Was Shadowburn the execute or something? I can't even remember.
Yeah,
It was. Okay.
yeah.
Did they take that out?
Shadowburn basically replaced. It's your Chaos Bolt execute version, so it's instant. Costs 1 ember instead of 2.
Okay.
And if the target dies, then you generate back 2 embers.
Yeah, because I remember playing that at MOP, obviously, because that was the first class I played. So I guess like let's talk about a bit about class design because we've already been doing it a bit right now. So I guess we'll start with Warlock. Like what were your favorite parts of like the Warlock class? Since obviously what you've played the most, but then on top of that, like why is it like upsetting or not as fun for you to play now? Like what's disappointing about it?
Okay. I'll start with the easy kill is the global cooldown change.
Yeah.
I hate pressing
Yep.
my Dark Soul and waiting to cast my next thing. Like Dark Soul is just like, oh, I'm going to do more damage now. I don't want to have to wait 2 seconds before I get to play. Which is a bit stupid. And imagine you have to press trinkets or something as well, or like your Infernal. Like, dude, just let me play the game. Like I don't think you need 600 actions per minute to like master rotation with some of your cooldowns being off the GCD. You'll be fine. Like it's okay, Blizzard. Like it's no problem. Players have handled it since Classic. They can still do it now. So that's the main one. That's one of the big ones. No, not the main one. I'd say for me the AoE feels wrong. It feels counterintuitive at the moment. It feels very lackluster and boring. And to be honest, I'd just rather not do it. Like I don't want to cast Rain of Fire because it feels like it does nothing. I don't even care if it does something on my recount. I cast it and I just don't feel it. I don't feel the kick. Right? It doesn't do much for me. I'd rather stay away from it. Obviously, Like I said, in terms of how I played Warlock, Shadowburn snipes were it was my recipe, right? Is like how I min maxed was sniping off low ads or low enemies with my Shadowburn, getting my embers back up and going in again, right? And finding those little snipes that somebody else wouldn't find was the difference you can make. Now it's in the talent tree and you can't access it, right? Because it's not good.
Yeah, true.
AoE like Cataclysm is, it's okay, but if shit moves, then it's not that fun. And
Sounds like media.
like
Well, except that
like
I've got Kabas, so it doesn't matter.
yeah, and like imagine it's on cooldown and you can't immolate everything because there's too much things to immolate. And it's like, look, I understand Fire and Brimstone's the issues that it had in terms of like players would accidentally press it and it would cost an ember and they would then not be able to like do their rotation.
That's such a dumb reason for it not to exist, though. That's like saying, oh, I'm playing Fury Warrior and I accidentally pressed my recklessness, so now I don't have it anymore. Or like, it's just like if you like you shouldn't change things based on that.
It was a weird toggle, right?
I understand it costs an ember, but
yeah, it's a weird thing because if you just like toggle it off and on, you would get nothing but lose all your potential as well, right? You're just toggling it and you just screw yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, look, I understand.
Just don't toggle it, dude.
Like,
just don't toggle it.
I think it added some flavor that the spec that just carried the spec so much. Like honestly, that Fire and Brimstone for me just carried the spec. I think Rain of Fire needs to go. It has never been fun. I hated it even when it was functionally effective in like with this shit spell. And even if you make it look cool, like you just as a Destro lock, there's no kick to it. Like you put it down.
It's essentially like Blizzard, right? It just kind of feels shit. It feels shit. Yeah, it feels shit. It feels horrible. It's
even Blizzard, like in Classic WoW, Blizzard feels more impactful than this shit. I don't know what it is.
Because you Classic doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so how would I change Warlock?
Yeah, how would
you? I think.
Bring back Kill Jaden's Cunning.
Sorry, say again.
Bring back Kill Jaden's Cunning.
No, look, yeah, like as a meme, yeah, but like, I understand we already have the, our gateway, we have the demonic, like our summon circle and our demonic gateway, like we're on a mobility I can understand, and what they took it away.
The utility is ridiculous.
Yeah, there was like in WoD you didn't even take it most of the time, like, and it was I was completely fine with the class. I think it's honestly the AoE mechanisms of Fire and Brimstone for me would need to come back. I think a baseline Shadowburn would need to come back in the way that it worked before. Fellflame would be a nice to have. Don't care too much for it. And yeah, otherwise I'm happy. Like just bring it back to Mop and take away Kill Jaden's Cunning and Fellflame if you want to.
Fair enough.
That's literally how I think it's the best way to put it.
What do you think about the pet interaction and like how it looks going into Shadowlands? Not necessarily with the pets, but now I understand. I think the imp is the best one, so you don't have an interrupt. Like, do you think the pet interaction is something that like brings like a strong class fantasy and is really important, or do you think like you could just fuck off with the pet and it doesn't even matter?
So it always pissed me off to play Destruction Warlock when I can't just sack my pet. So I don't feel your pet should matter as a Destro lock. Okay. I feel like you need to be able to get the button you want from the pet that you sacrifice and just go on with your day. If you want an interrupt, you get your interrupt. If you want, a magic effect dispel, you do your imp and whatever else. I don't think I need to care for my pet as a Destro lock. I don't think it has much to the fantasy.
Yeah,
just in my best times with the spec. I don't think that it works because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And are you like? Have you seen the changes for Warlock coming in Shadowlands? Is it a class you want to play?
I'm not aware of any major changes coming to Destro lock.
Oh yeah, no, true. I completely forgot. They literally said they're keeping the spec the same because they're happy with it, right? So
they basically had this thing with Zelnoth, right? This like the best class designer they've ever had, right? Is this guy who designs Mop Warlock, and he should talk the WoW devs, behind their back on Twitter or something. So they fired him, and now they want to shit on his legacy by making the spec unplayable.
Yeah, I remember.
And they don't want to talk about that. They would admit he was right, and now the class is butchered forever.
So they're fucking you over. They're fucking him over. Damn.
It was literally that one dev that designed Warlock well, and then they got rid of him. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it sucks.
But think about it. Everyone in MOP wanted to be a warlock, and yes, it was OP. But even if it wasn't OP, but it played like that, it would
Everyone
be
in
still
MOB
so
was a
fucking.
warlock, dude. I swear you had like
Well, but
10,
yeah,
10 locks a raid.
because it was overpowered. But like, I don't think that it's unreasonable for me to say, give me that gameplay, but just take away the numbers that it was having, and that's all.
I don't think that's
And
unreasonable
then
either. The only
yeah,
part, like in my mind, the only thing about Mr. Pandaria Warlock or Destruction Warlock specifically that was broken was Kill Jaden's Cunning. I think
yeah.
every other aspect of the class played really fluidly and it felt nice. And if they just tuned the numbers down, then it would be a perfectly fine class. But they have kept fucking around with it. I'm honestly really glad it was the first class I played because it introduced me to ranged and specifically you actually taught me how to play the game decently. Like I remember when I started playing, like I had no idea what any of the spells did. But when I hit max level, I remember you telling me things to save up my embers so that way I could spam chaos ball when when my cloak or my trinkets went off so I can maximize my damage. I think that kind of stuff as a new player is really important to learn, and Warlock is a really great example of that. A lot of other classes are just fucking brain dead, right? And it's set me up for success with other classes.
Because you're playing the
Well,
branded classes.
can I touch on the amount of procs you get in the modern game compared to back then? Like back then, you'd have a trinket.
Please touch
you'd
on it
have
because
Dark Soul,
I can't
you'd
even track
have
it
your-
now.
This is something I want to
Yeah,
talk
don't
about
try-
as well.
like-
You go.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, no. I came to PFA, right? I cast a conflag on a mob, and suddenly I have 22 buffs, right? Which is all the fucking of them do. I'm like, well, I guess I'll always have some of these, and I don't know which ones matter, so why would I even fucking track them? So suddenly, an important decision-making element of my gameplay is just gone.
No, it's
Like
true.
I don't need to decide, when to use when to save my soul shards for.
This is the first
Just line it
expansion
up.
where I've stopped tracking my buffs with an aura bar because there's too many to keep track of. I see like literally like 30 buffs at the top of my screen next to my map, and there's no point even looking at them because when I see
high buff add-on
Dude,
yet or something. I
like
don't know.
when I see a breakdown on my sim, one of my buffs is literally up 99.9% of the time. Like why the fuck is it there, dude? Just like oh my.
Make it a patch note.
Yeah, make it a patch note exactly.
It's fine to have something that's up all the time if you have to kind of like not work to get it, but like to if it changes something about your character or your class.
Oh, you get it just from attacking the boss.
But like for example, I'm playing a BM Hunter right now, right? And they're kind of a brain dead class, super easy. But
Sure.
you have so many buffs to keep track of, and so many things. Sorry, not to keep track of, just so many buffs, and you only have to keep track of like very few things. And so if you're selectively tracking something, even procs that will be a huge increase if you like play around them, don't really matter that much on say BM Hunter. So we have one proc right now from the legendary cloak, which gives you massive stat increase. But that doesn't change how you play BM Hunter really.
Just
Now,
increase your
there
damage.
is certain things you can like min max, but as a BM you have such short cooldowns, you're just pressing everything on cooldown anyway. So
Yeah.
like you're not waiting, you're not delaying, you're not lining it up with something because it's random. It's just an increase in the passive numbers you have.
Yeah.
You do track, for example, barb shot and your pet attack speed, so you don't let that fall off. But for example, it also does things like it gives you energy regen, and you don't track that. It gives you like a crit buff if you press it from a talent. Now you can track that. You could track that, right? But it's pointless because it doesn't change how you.
Yeah. No, I
You're
think
still pressing it to refresh the attack speed. Like it just feels pointless.
I think a good example of what you track these days is, and like even like really good players that I watched, I don't even see them tracking buffs. But what most people do track is Azurite pieces and like the kind of bonuses you get from those. So obviously I play Fire Mage, and you have to track Blaster Master, or you're kind of just inting. But don't judge me on the YouTube video because I wasn't doing that yet. And for Arms Warrior, you want to be tracking your Test of Might so you can just so you can maximize your big strength damage windows. There's a lot of classes that have that kind of stuff, and it's important. But outside of that, you have so many buffs from so many different things, and it's actually just insane. Like, and it's just hard to play around with. Like, there's not. I feel like it takes away an important aspect of gameplay and skill because and we've touched on this before, but so much of your damage is passive. It feels like eye level and skill doesn't necessarily matter too much as long as you've got corruptions and procs, and obviously there's still a large degree of like how to put it, but there's still a large degree of skill which affects your numbers, especially depending on the content, like a Mythic Plus, where you can't be an idiot like me, but it's just
If you're be fine. Like, come on,
It's
pick
just
the right
brainless.
class.
Yeah, true.
But another thing that's kind of annoying about all this, right, is like, for example, corruptions. A lot of the damage corruptions, you have no influence on how they work. There's no RPPM, so you can't like guarantee, okay, it's gonna proc soon or anything like that. It's just gonna proc randomly, do some damage, and it's frustrating if you don't have control over it. Now, I understand that no control means that it's better for, say, someone who has no idea how it works, right? But the goal shouldn't be to cater to those who have no idea how it works and don't want to know how it works. I think it's a bad idea to do that. I think what you should do is design a system that works relatively well for those people, but has the option to learn about it and master it, right? So like Infinite Stars, it just procs, and between two fights, it can have like, you know, you might stack it 4 times and do nothing, and then the next guy next to you stacked it 14 times and he's top of the meters. Like, it just feels bad, dude.
It's poison bomb design, right? It's poison bomb in like in a whole gameplay system. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, oh shit, yo, it's here, yes.
Essentially, it is.
I got 4 poison bombs back to back. I win.
Exactly, it's so silly. And I think the whole BOE thing and how they added corruption vendors like after everyone's like wasted real money to buy the items is pretty funny.
Raise your hand if you spent gold on BOE corrupted items. Pink, have you?
Actually, I didn't. No.
You didn't? Fuck.
No.
I
I was looking for one. I don't have fucking 7 million lying around.
Ah, fair.
But, yeah.
I spent like what? So technically, what, 500k on some 9% mastery lakes? Yeah, someone in chat raised their hand. Like, I'm sure, like, especially if you're at the high end of rating, or just like you care about your numbers, then you probably did that at some point. Especially if you were unlucky.
I mean, what's the pressure? What's the pressure in top guilds for people to spend real money to buy the best corruptions?
Well,
probably
the top of the top, either pay for the raiders, kind of, you know, if you're like doing world first kind of thing, then they have access to this anyway because they buy it early on. They borrow money and stuff, borrow gold. If you're kind of in a top 50, top 100 level guild, then I'm sure there's a lot of pressure to buy it or at least farm the shit out of it until you get what you need.
Yeah, and this like I don't know where I'm with this loot RNG concept of like, is it good for like the loot to always have randomized like the Titan forging thing, and versus like, oh, you just know what you drop and it's either good or not.
Titan forging was so
you guys should always just know. There should be. It's okay to have randomness if there's something to offset the randomness, right? What makes randomness fun?
Is a bonus.
Is that you can work against it, right? So, for example, XCOM is one of my favorite games. Plug in it for a future YouTube video anyway. But the whole idea of XCOM is everything is pretty much random in terms of if you're going to hit the enemy, how much damage you're going to do, you know, things like that, like damage fall off from grenades, all this kind of thing. So there's loads of random systems, and what the enemy does is logical but also random, right? There's loads of options. The game isn't about high rolling or low rolling. The game is about minimizing the effect of the randomness, right? So it's about thinking, okay, if it rolls low, what's going to happen? If it rolls high, what's going to happen? And forcing the game into a direction that you want. And I think that makes randomness interesting. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So if corruption or other random systems were like that, so even if it was something as easy as the corruption vendor, but the prices are inflated, like we said with in a previous podcast, so that the randomness exists, but there is an end goal that circumvents the randomness, that would make it a much better and more interesting system. But it has to exist from the start, otherwise it's kind of a cop-out.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think about the corruption vendor system, Leon?
Corruption vendor?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd love to say more if I actually played the retail version of the game. I think that putting it in at the time that they have is a bit of like a slap in the face.
Do you know exactly how it works?
Well, I don't know what you need to do to grind it. I just know that it's grindable now.
Yeah, it's grindable. So essentially,
and you can offset your RNG by grinding, which is good.
Yeah, so essentially there was a system in the game they implemented in patch 8.3, I think, called Echoes of Nihilotha, and you get it through pretty much all types of content, and you used it actually to buy essences, you know, for your neck, which is a big damage component. And what they did was they actually increased the amount of echoes you get from all sources by a factor of 5. But then they also increased the price of the essences by a factor of 5, and then added a corruption vendor, which has like I think it's like 6 different corruptions every like 4 days. You know, resets on the assault. So what you could do is like say you need, for example, Masterful 3, right? That's all you need because you're playing Fire Mage. You might have to wait 4 weeks to get it because the like what corruptions come is actually random, but you can get it and you will be able to buy it with echoes.
Oh, okay, understand. Okay. Imagine being a new player trying to understand that.
Right.
Fuck.
So
Crazy.
confusing. There's too many systems, and like honestly, this is kind of off topic. But a big problem for me is that in Shadowlands, what like I'm looking forward to it, right? But in Shadowlands, they're gonna fuck it up, man. They're gonna fuck it up. They are adding like 3 different systems just to make one system balanced. It's too complicated and it's too idealistic. You know, like they want us. They want every single class to have a different ability from one of 4 covenants, and then all they're saying is that it's gonna be balanced. Like people are really worried about it, and we're just saying like, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll balance it. They've said
And
that
not only
shit
that,
to us
though.
every time.
Right.
Not only that though, but each of the covenants gives
A wild ability.
has their own ability plus a class ability, and the important thing is class ability, right? Because if you have something like I know I'm copying this a little bit from the recent Preach video about covenants, but it blew my mind when he was talking about like, for example, Shaman, how they have one ability that's supposed to cover enhancement, elemental, and restoration, and it just they have this huge task just to design this.
What
crazy
about Druid,
ability that,
dude?
you know.
Like with Druid, you're
Druid.
literally trying to cover all 4 specs. And like the worrying part about it is that, you know, they're tying this Covenant class ability, but then with that Covenant, you're also getting a world ability, which you're going to be able to use in raids. So like, for example, and again, like taking from the Preach video, one of them is like pretty much a teleport, right? You know, like Reaper from Overwatch. You can just teleport anywhere. And now that's fucking useful. Then another one, I think with the Night Phase, like you get a little shield. They can't make the raids or content based on specific Covenant abilities or even class abilities, because then it forces you to go down a certain route. And that's such a big problem because it means that one of them is inevitably going to be broken. And then
They can't assume everybody will have them, and they can't assume everybody won't have them. So
Exactly.
what do they do?
So like if you have a fight where like the fucking teleport is just broken, right? Then
Yeah.
like that's a balance issue in itself. But then you've also got the problem of different classes like being forced to go a specific covenant because it is so much better for the type of content what they want to do. If you want to grind Mythic Plus and one covenant has this ridiculous AoE ability, then you have to take it, but then they're also trying to balance the power of that through the other systems, and it's just way too complicated. It's not going to work. They're too idealistic. Like they said, I'm sure they said the same shit with corruptions. They said the same shit with
No, they say the same shit with Azerite, and Azerite was one system, and that was fucked at the launch as well.
Yeah, it's just I don't see it working, man. It's scary because the actual expansion, and especially thematically and you know, just from how it looks, like the art team is great, but it looks great. But the systems are worrying.
I saw an amazing comment recently. The art team is like that one tank that hops into a Pug Mythic Plus, does the top damage, top HPS, and then at the end of the dungeon just says, "Nice group, thanks," and leaves. Like that's the art team.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting, yeah.
Fucking hard carry, man.
I just feel like so Blizzard devs. I mean, an old staple in software development was a kind of the software development life cycle, where you kind of sort of pre-plan everything and design everything in advance, and stick to your coherent vision and then release changes and patches. The more recent, obviously, it's been around for some time, but the design philosophy of sort of agile, rapid prototyping, iteration, and rapid improvement. Most software development teams aren't able to decide correctly when to pivot or persevere on these systems. So what ends up happening is they end up sticking and committing to the wrong designs, and they pivot away from the right designs, and they keep going through this iteration and feedback loop, and they completely lose track of their plan and their vision because they just keep going in small increments and small iterations. Like it doesn't work together as one system because it sprawls off into 10 different systems with 10 different teams, which have a weekly meeting to decide how the systems will work together, and they spend the rest of the week working on their individual system. So it's like it just sprawls off.
So someone in my
Very
chat,
interesting. Very interesting point.
Someone just in my chat just said, Are you really complaining about the fact that there are certain covenants, certain classes will get more amounts of damage than others? Let me guess. Are you also mad that you got to play a troll to do more DPS as mage? The difference there is that, and you framed that like a bit of a calm, but that's fine. The difference there is that covenants themselves are really thematically apparent, right? And people want to choose covenants just based on the theme and appearance of those things. So, like for example, I want to go Rivendrift because it looks sick. But then you will also be swayed undoubtedly by the covenant class abilities and the world ability. But then on top of that, I'm arguing, and I think all of us kind of agree that the balance issues that arise from those differences between covenants is going to be really great, and that's a much bigger difference than trying to manage class differences. Like, sure, a troll's going to do more DPS as a mage with berserking, but it's really negligible, to be honest. But we think that, at least I think that these balance problems between covenants are going to be really strong, and trying to support that with a few other systems is going to be a problem.
Oh,
even bigger of a deal, in my opinion, in this is that covenants are an exclusive choice. Yeah, it is just 5% or something to go troll. That is a big deal. But covenants are an exclusive choice. There's going to be a covenant that's better for Mythic Plus, right? There's going to be a covenant that's better for PvP. There's going to be a covenant that's better for raiding. And what's the correct choice? You can't pick all of them. And so you're gimping yourself in the other content. And that may be an interesting that could be an interesting decision, right? I don't mind being worse at something if it means that I can be better at something else. That's okay thematically. But in an MMO where you are pushed to min-maxing and optimizing as hard as you can, especially in retail, right? Maybe not so much in Classic, but you see it in Classic too. You are pushed to min-max. And so if you have the wrong covenant for Mythic Plus, you pick the PvP one, you can't really expect to push as high, and you can't switch. And that can be frustrating. Obviously, you can still do content. I'm not saying you can't, but it's going to be a point of frustration. It really will be.
So to the guy's point, I don't know who kind of wrote the comment. I mean, I was sort of going to jump in and say something similar to his point of saying, I don't care what covenant I need to choose. If I'm a Deathstroke and I need to choose this one, I'll choose this one and I'll play this one. It's fine. I think I hear some of the issues the guys are talking about fight design and kind of choice. Do I want to be good at Mythic Plus or raiding, and I can't really change easily. I might want to be doing both, but ultimately I need to pick which one I like more or which one's more important. I think it's a kind of fine balancing act because class differences are very subtle. I remember in Legion, I picked a Void Elf, for example, where you had this thing that moved away from you and you could teleport to it right after if you wanted to, or if you press the button again. And that had its quirks over a Troll, for example, who just presses Berserk and just casts quicker. And so it was subtle, but I didn't feel there's a Troll priest here. And I'm fucked. He's gonna out DPS me because he gets his racial and not my racial.
Exactly.
It's subtle enough to where I didn't really care. With confidence, I feel this. They just have to get the balance right and make it a little bit more subtle. If you can't make a game-breaking teleportation spell, it's one of the covenants. That's just a bit silly. I think you can make them spec specific, maybe rather than class specific, which would make a bit more sense, but they won't do that. They're trying to go for class design. I think that would be a good fix because obviously the specs that do heal tank DPS are going to have a generic boring covenant.
Yeah. No, for example, with Shaman, one of the covenants is this thing called the Vesper Totem, where the next 3 damaging and healing abilities, make it pulse for damage and make it pulse for healing. So if you're enhanced with Shaman, you could do 3 damaging abilities, boom, 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 damage, but then you can also throw 3 healing surges, boom, 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 healing. And it's kind of good because it fulfills that role of the Shaman class fantasy, which is being a battle mage and having that versatility. But at the same time, when you're trying to account for an ability which provides benefits to every single possible spec of the class, then it can be a bit clunky. And I think you can see that in classes like Druid.
Well, why can't you choose what effects you want to have? Why can't you just choose your affinity faction and then you just have a choice? So I want to have this effect, I want to have that effect. Maybe that's something you can consider as well. Do you need to hardcore commit? Or these guys, I don't even know the names of these fucking races, but these guys do this, or those guys do that. It's can it not just be I want this one?
And then on top of that, you have to consider that there's so many levels of variability based on like the sheer number of systems they have. You know, they've got the Covenant class ability, they've got the Covenant world ability. You're gonna have the soul bind or whatever, which is gonna arguably make you stronger in various ways, and then you're gonna have your legendaries, which are gonna be customizable. So there's just so much like variability and almost randomness that it becomes not like this thing that's like necessarily giga broken, but it just becomes hard to fine tune between every single possible spec and class.
How they make their own lives difficult. Like if you have these tuning knobs, as they call them, you turn up one knob and you don't know what the fuck it's gonna do to the other 20 knobs, right?
Exactly.
So how do you balance a spec? Do you turn them all at once, like separately? Do you like? I don't know why they make their life so hard.
It's a good
Like
point.
it's not that complicated.
I think that's what you said, that it's all these disparate teams working on their own thing, and each one wants to have a tuning knob. So they're like, okay, listen, we got to be able to, rein in the class here, and then they suddenly have this big garbled mess of things.
Yeah, I just picture a scenario where like a Monday morning, like everyone's back at work, and then it's just like big fucking red lights go off. It's like, guys, fucking Pharaoh Druid is broken. What the fuck? It's like, okay, who turned the knob? What happened?
Which knob did we turn?
What did we change? Like, how the fuck is this a thing? Like, it's just because it's so complicated, man. It's like, where did we go wrong? And then that's gonna happen throughout the expansion, man. One fucking spec is gonna be ridiculously broken. It's like, oh my god, why did we let them do this with their legendary when they have that fucking Covenant ability? It's like, what? And they can do this with their legendary and the teleport? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna get fucked. I love it.
And
It's
then one
fun.
executive will say, hence we take away cat form.
I mean, like,
Inevitably, people are going to find some emergent property that's going to make something really, really strong.
yeah.
They're going to be like, okay, yeah, this interaction is broken, and then people will abuse it, and Blizzard will just be like, oh.
And that's always going to happen, right? Like, there's always going to be one spec or class that's just, like, kind of broken compared to the others, which is fine. But they're kind of, like, asking for it to happen with this. Like, I think it does make the balance, like, it does create a balance issue. And one that is definitely more than just, like, okay, if you're a warrior and you go troll, then it's better to go Zandalari for Fury, and better to go just normal troll with your arms. But also, if you want to be a furry and go Volpera, just do it, because it doesn't really fucking matter. It's like 1k DPS. Who cares? I think the biggest exception you'll find is probably like Fire Mage, which is 5 PS, but I'm honestly not sure about the numbers because I haven't seen it. But it's really fucking subtle. If someone is a troll Fire Mage and someone is a Blood Elf because they want to be a hot girl, and then it doesn't mean the Blood Elf can't do more than the troll, even though the troll technically has a small advantage.
You know the level of like subtlety I want in these covenants, honestly, would be like a symbiosis spell. It'll be like, oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. Oh, I have this spell now. I can do symbiosis. Let me get a mortal strike of this warrior. Like, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that much, but it's cool. Thanks. I can still go like, oh, if I choose a slightly different one, it's still fine. I mean, I've heard arguments that if it's that weak, just scrap the system. But I think it can still make it interesting.
No, I think it's an important point, and you see Preach talk about it a lot in his videos. But especially in alpha testing, you're looking at how classes feel as opposed to how strong they are, and I think that's important because, like, for example, when we were talking about Destro Lock before, you were saying that like it at least felt better before, and you wouldn't mind if the numbers were lower, but it's at least still more fun to play. I think it's the same with like those kind of abilities. You don't need some like ridiculously broken thing where all your damage is coming from one system. But as long as the class itself feels nice to play and is fluid, then that's good enough in itself.
I want to be able to do something about stuff. Like I don't want to be able to not deal with a large trash back because my Cataclysm is on cooldown, right? Like I want to have a choice in real time what I can do, right? Which is all I'm asking for, right? Is just give me the buttons that I can then do stuff with. Give me the ingredients, Like I don't have any ingredients in my Destrolock on BFA. I just don't feel like I do, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Yeah.
So I guess jumping topic a bit, because we've been discussing Shadowlands, and obviously both Pink and I know that come Legion and you switched to Shadow Priest because you actually just hated the Destruction Warlock so much. And it seems like they're really fucking the class in Shadowlands. Like, what?
Shadow Priest looks like such a pile of dog shit.
It looks horrible. Yeah. So, what were the things you liked about Shadow Priest and Legion? And like, why do you think the variations and changes are just looking really horrible? Because it's not just a damage thing, but like, it really comes down to feeling.
What did I like? I mean, you can't not talk about Surrender to Madness just being like just a once in a lifetime gameplay experience
I remember
that'll
some
never.
bosses you surrendered to madness at the start.
Yes, yes, I had a couple fights where I just pressed it at the beginning and just saw what happens, right? And sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't.
Or
If I
fucking
got rooted,
Xavier's
or
Mythic, that was crazy.
yeah, or times when times when the tank would pull away the boss just out of the range of my mind blast, and I just die because I like my mind blast doesn't go off and I'm
That's
just like
true.
dead.
Yeah.
But I think using it on. Do you remember that bird boss in Emerald Nightmare? What was her name on Mythic?
Oh,
Bird Box.
Ariful Fenril or
No,
something?
Yeah, I think
the Ren Feral.
What was
yeah,
it?
yeah, whatever that was. Optimizing surrender
It
on
was the
that
bird and
fight was probably
spider,
the
right? The bird
that
slash
was one of the
spider.
hardest things I had to do because you have to like change platforms and shit, and you have to like stay like disperse while you're jumping and hold. Like I loved it. I fucking loved it because it was like I said, it's the best ingredients you could
Did
possibly
did
have.
dispersion stop your drain?
Huh?
Did dispersion stop your drain? I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. Dispersion
Okay.
would stop your drain. Yeah,
Okay,
like your
okay.
dispersion would stop your drain, and your artifact weapon spell would stop
That
your
must have
drain
been
as well.
intense as fuck. Like just one pull, you're like, oh, I popped dispersion too late, dead.
Yeah, it was just fun because you felt like it's you were truly ramping towards something. Like you just felt yourself ramping. I'm weak. I'm weak. Okay, I'm building up. You press surrender. You're chilling for a while until like 60 stacks. You're basically just chilling, and then suddenly you're in stack like 72. Like oh shit! Like
Yeah.
I'm having to play pretty quick now, right? Your fucking fingers are starting to smash the keyboard quickly. Start kind of sweating because
Yeah.
you better not press the wrong button once because one
And
GCD can kill you.
yeah, and I think
Um,
that's a good example of the class having power and like giving agency to the player because it was so obvious with Shadow Priest, regardless of how broken it was, that the better you were at the spec, the more damage you were gonna do, and that was gonna reflect.
it was a meta game. It was a game within a game of how far can you push it?
Yeah.
How early can you surrender? Like, can you press it at 60%? Can you press it at 70? Can you
And
press it at
timing it's so
75?
important because you have to know the fight inside out, but then on top of it, you have to know your class inside out.
You need to know your raid. You need to know your raid team. You need to know how
Yeah,
quick
true.
can your raid team kill this. How much of your raid team will die? Because you need to know how much longer the fight will last before you press the spell. And you're much better used to the team if you don't press it at all, if you're going to be like half dead anyway, than if you press it, half your raid dies, and then you die, and the boss is on like 40%. You have to like, it was just fun. I just loved it. It was a game within a game.
Yeah.
But,
Why do you
yeah,
think that the design of that is failing? Like a couple of opinions I heard is that it's very difficult to balance something like that. It's because it is a lot of power, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of potential for the player. And it's hard to understand too because you worked your ass off and even like you're a really good player, so like that must be really hard for the average player as well.
it's too hard to balance around because you never know what somebody can pull off with it. I think it ultimately can't exist as much as I love it. Yeah, I don't think it can exist. It's
And
just like
is it baseline now? I can't remember the changes exactly. Or is it
Oh,
just
I don't-
they're just buffing or something? I can't really.
The main changes that people are complaining about are that Void Bolt is now castable during Mind Flay, so you don't have to clip Mind Flay, but the resulting of that is that you lose loads of mobility because you can't like stutter step during Void Bolt. You have to constantly channel Mind Flay or you're
Yeah,
losing.
Yeah, I don't like that. I really like
Um,
Shadow Priest, and that would feel bad.
And
Yeah,
the
it's-
surrender change. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say like Void Bolt in between your like Void Bolt for mobility and Power Word Shield for mobility were essentials to your feel of the spec. You can't have Void Bolt during Mind Flay, breaks the flow completely. I don't know why they did that.
It's like
They
it's like a fire
probably-
blast now.
They probably heard some complaints like, yeah, I don't like having to clip Mind Flay and channel ability feels bad, so they were like, okay, that solves this, but like no high level people were complaining about that because it wasn't a problem, right?
Creates
Or
a new
like what you
problem.
mean, like watching your Mind Flay ticks to cancel it just as you got a tick of insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, like come on,
Like,
get
I
mid-
like that. It's an element of skill.
I know mid-level players were definitely complaining about it though. Like I personally didn't like that type of thing. Like that's why I don't really play channel classes. But like that's fine.
I think it's
You know?
fine because and not to be a dick about it, but at that point you're just complaining about being bad and not wanting to improve. It's
Yeah,
like, it's such
you
an
know,
easy thing. You just stop the channel as soon as you get that tick of insanity, and you just do the next thing.
I think we've drifted a bit from like Surrender to Madness in terms of its design. I think
So-
the best players to the middle players is just too big. The gap's too big. You can't You can't do that. Like it's like the bad thing about Surrender to Madness is that every raid, even if it's a farm kill, even if it's an alt run, you're sweating because you have to use it. If you don't use Surrender to Madness, you're gonna do shit damage. And I just want to chill on Butcher normal, you know. I don't want to surrender at the beginning and fucking max my ass out. I want to be able to chill out, play Legacy of the Void. That's why, like in Legion as well, towards the end when the meta became Legacy of the Void for the most part, like Surrender had niche uses, and when people kind of got to farming the fights, then yes, the fights got short enough for it. But I loved Legacy of the Void gameplay too. I really liked it in Legion. I don't think Surrender was like a make or break for the spec.
It was just
What do you
broken
think
at
of
the
the
time.
new surrender design though in Shadowlands? You know what it is, or?
Not really. Could you explain? I don't know.
Yeah, so basically, the new surrender works by it being an offensive buff on the debuff on the enemy.
Oh right.
So you
yeah,
put
yeah.
surrender on something, and then you get the surrender effects just like you're used to. You know, increased sanity generation, but you die at the end of it when the debuff runs out, or when you know when the thing dies, surrender ends. So some things people tried with it were to put it on something and then kill it quickly so that they keep the surrender buff, but don't, die from it. But at the same time, that doesn't work because surrender instantly falls off if your
Yeah,
target
you die,
dies.
right? Yeah.
It's like a really weird scenario. Like
I feel like
they
it
kind
doesn't
of
fit the theme. Sorry, but
no,
it's
they
like
took
it's
the worst of both.
you're surrendering to madness. So like, why is it a debuff you put on the other thing? Is my question, like, if that
They
makes
tried to
sense.
solve the issues.
So you need to put it on the boss when it's 3 minutes away from dying, or what?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And so if there's like added cleave or something, and you like say you target something else, then you're just gonna be really slow, and you can only like get that buff on that specific mob or boss.
Only on that target. It's not like on you as long as it's on the mob.
Like, how does it work?
No,
Like
it
the-
works. It works
Hmm.
essentially how it is now, as long as it's on the mob.
Oh,
Right.
No,
okay,
because
okay,
it's
okay.
not you can't die. In the previous design, if you made a mistake, you will die. But here, if you make a mistake, it's still on the mobs. You're still alive.
Pretty much, but if you run out of sanity, you still die.
Oh, okay. You still
Okay,
do. And
okay.
does it drain quicker and quicker?
Yes. It
Okay,
works
so-
exactly like the current
Okay.
version, except that it's a debuff on the enemy. And if you kill the enemy, as in the debuff is gone, then it just disappears from you. You stop getting the increased sanity generation and the increased drain, and you stay alive.
Oh, and you die if what?
If you
Sorry,
run out of sanity during the window.
Okay. As long as you don't run out of insanity, you stay alive, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. So like, if you put it on an ad and it dies in like 30 seconds or whatever the fuck, and you didn't have time to build that huge
Kind of underused it,
surrender to
yeah.
madness, then you just got no benefit from it. Like because it just died and that's it. You're out.
Okay.
I'd honestly, I'm not going to dismiss that up front. I need to play around with it to see how it feels.
I feel like that's a
think-
big Mythic Plus nerf.
Yeah.
Mythic-
According.
But you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go it anyway, Mythic Plus, would you?
Shadow Priest and Mythic Plus, right?
Yeah, true. Are you doing a plus 30
According to all
key?
the content creators, it feels bad because you need to find something that lasts just long enough for you to get the maximum benefit of Surrender to Madness without like dying early.
Do that anyway.
I know.
You know what I
But
mean?
now-
Like in raiding, you needed to do that anyway because if the boss dies too if the boss dies too quickly after you press surrender before, then
Yeah,
you didn't
maximalist.
utilize it and your damage sucks.
I'm just
If it dies
confused.
after, you die. If it dies just right, you're max on the logs.
I'm just confused why they made that change. Like, I feel like it doesn't really alter that much.
It only alters it if you're putting the debuff on the boss, though. Like if you're putting it on ads and you're trying to game it that way, it shifts it quite a bit.
Okay.
Sorry, Pink. If it expires on your target, then what?
I think it just drops off, but I don't think you can have it expire because it's like a 3 minute or something. I think you die before it expires.
Oh, so you're gonna have min-maxing Shadow Priests and Mythic Plus runs that put Surrender to Madness on the first mob. The tank will pull it and nobody will touch it. The priest will tell the group to kill that mob, right, when he's shitting himself with insanity, but he won't be for a long time because you'll have such a big cleave range on all the different targets. It could be pretty cool.
Yeah, it could be cool.
Okay,
That's
I
actually
think
an
I
interesting
understand it
point.
now. That's interesting. I didn't think of that. So
It could be cool.
it's kind of
No.
gonna be like Fire Mage then, where you're gonna have to be pulling around the Shadow Priest in a very specific way.
You have to, yeah.
Because
It's
otherwise
an
you
interesting
you
point.
just lose out on the value that you get with the class.
yeah. Interesting. But
Is it
you
still
can
a
get
talent
some-
though, Pink, or is it baseline? I think it's still a talent, right?
Talent.
Okay, good. I hope it's not the go-to talent. I hope Legacy of the Void is.
The problem with it, right, is if it's not the go-to, then it's probably too shit to pick.
And if it is, then it's probably too strong.
It's such a God. It's hard to
It's all
balance
about-
because it's strong if used correctly. That if it's not something you're picking every time and you're a good player, means it's a bad ability, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
I don't know.
it's a risk versus reward kind of thing, right? If if to take
Yeah,
that talent compared to a more conventional and safe one, then I think the reward kind of has to be worth it to a decent margin.
But ultimately, how it's happened in gameplay generally, like it's not that much of a choice. Like doesn't matter behind it. Is like it either is or isn't worth to run it like pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm curious to see. I honestly don't hate the design from the idea of it. I think I need to see how it plays out. I think the rest of the class design in terms of how you get in and out of void form and how it all feels like a shit experience the whole time because you never feel like you truly ram. I think that sucks, and I
Yeah.
think the void range is not good. I don't know what they've done with Mindbender if they've made the baseline. They probably haven't. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that actually.
I don't know. What are
I've looked at all the class changes,
guys,
but
I don't know.
it's been a while actually since I checked because it was released a month ago or something. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
really curious. Because I've been playing range now, and to be honest, I really dislike Fire Mage. And not just because I'm like not the best at my spec, like because I used to be really good at the specs I played when I was a melee player. So it is obviously a bit frustrating not being like really good at the spec you're playing now. But even then, I just find the class kind of boring. And not necessarily because it all relies on that one combustion window, but I think it's just being ranged and it's not for me.
Yeah.
That being said, I see a lot of people that play range specs not wanting to really play range specs next expansion, with the exception of Hunter, which is hardly a range spec to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a melee at range.
Yeah, so I don't know, like
Dude, I think the Mythic Plus metagame is just killing ranged classes. It just is like it's so hard to like most people love Mythic Plus. It's one of the main contents they do,
Yeah,
and if
I love
range
it.
just doesn't get picked, if you just want a red paladin, a rogue, and a demon hunter, or DK demon hunter, whatever that
Hunters are
combo
great.
really comes on, it's like, well,
So-
dude, I can play a range. But
So what people are running in MDI is either 3 unholy DKs for melee friendly dungeons, and then 3 BM hunters for non-melee friendly dungeons.
yeah,
for
but
the-
and yet in Legion, I was able in even not necessarily the highest Mythic Plus keys, but I was able to hold my own as a Shadow Priest because I knew how to exploit the duration of Void Form.
Yeah.
Like I knew how to cheese it off the mobs in such a way that I competed with best in slot gear demon hunters and melee classes. Like it was easier for them to do the same, but I could still do the same. Like in BFA, I can't do the same.
Yeah.
And I just can't do it.
Mythic Plus Enhancement Shaman was fun back in Legion. I remember that.
Mm.
Back with the 2 best in slot legendary items, and like, it was great. I loved it.
Like,
It wasn't the
this
best
little-
by any means, but
There was like little quirks I loved in Legion. Like there was this. Do you remember this ring that spread your dots to nearby targets?
Yeah,
yeah.
I do.
Like that was one bit of gameplay. Nobody, for whatever reason, used that ring. Nobody used it, and I was like, "This ring is fucking OP on these fights, and nobody's running it." So because you can cheese and you can make it work twice. There was a little like timing window that after you enter void form, your next mind flay will like spread your dots.
Mhm.
That was the ring, right? If you
Yeah.
pressed Mind Flay a certain increment after your Void Eruption, it would activate and spread your dots, but then you'd get back the buff and you could do it again on another Mind Flay.
Oh.
And it was a very delicate like little window. It was like it's pretty much a glitch, right? It was a bug. They never fixed it.
Wow, I didn't know
um,
that.
But
So
that,
you
that was
really
a kind
gamed
of
that.
gameplay element you could like exploit in Mythic Plus and raids or whatever that not many people knew about.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah,
like
it
even if it was a glitch, that's something they should keep because it's definitely like something you can
Yeah.
utilize and add skill to the game, which is never a
felt
bad
it
thing in
felt
my opinion.
fluid, yeah. It felt fluid. It just felt like running water. It just felt like, oh, this is good design. Like this feels good to do.
Yeah,
And I'd say the same for anything I've played on retail, and like this expansion is like
I mean,
none
yeah,
of it to me feels intuitive, good, and fluid.
I mean, you like, I think it really is the case that you picked up your spec really quickly, which like is merit to it in itself. And obviously you're a good player, but I think like even we've spoken about how the skill has really been lost in BFA. Like, and we've talked about it before, but like I think it's good to elaborate like with you as well. But
Yeah.
like it just feels like the good players, like obviously still gonna do the top DPS, but it does not come down to their skill as much as
I've
past
heard my logs
expansions.
don't matter, right? I've heard that said.
What was that, sorry?
Logs don't really matter. Like people don't think about logs as that serious anymore.
I hope not, because mine all suck.
But it's like what
Yeah,
bugs did
like
you?
people still chase logs, right? People do still chase logs for sure,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I
but
mean people still do
they are
it, but
less relevant, right? Because a lot of logs, ranged isn't dead in Mythic Plus, man. But the Mythic Plus meta relies on having a lot of melees because of utility and interrupt. But
And but no,
a lot of the
first AoE, ranged no
as
like
well damage profile, but
first AoE, right?
I mean like
partly a lot of range have burst AoE, like fire mages
Fire
bigger
Mage is
burst
great.
AoE than any melee. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
guys, by the way, obviously, like Leon hasn't been playing fucking retail, so don't like.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Like
I think it's a good point though. Like, what range? Like, okay, what? Like, I do feel like you see a lot more melee in Mythic Plus though. Obviously, Fire Mage is amazing. BM Hunter is amazing. Um, what like
Yeah.
you don't see a lot. I just feel like a few range specs are really good, but then otherwise you don't see that
Um.
many range specs. Like the diversity is low in Mythic Plus. You don't see
It's,
Boomkin, you don't see Lock, you don't see fucking what other mage specs.
hmm.
It's really limited now.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know if I meant burst AoE and how you guys interpreted it. I guess I meant more like arranged as like I can do an AoE, but you got to wait a couple more minutes before I do it again. A melee class is like, oh, I can just do it
It's
like
more
again and again and
consistent.
again and again. And I guess that's sustain. That means sustain, not burst. But I don't know what I'm really saying because I don't play the game in the
Yeah,
most
no, that's
recent
fair.
form. But, yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean the Mythic Plus meta is quite specific anyway. I mean, I do think. And again,
Yeah.
like I'm not like the best Mythic Plus player. I'm literally just getting back into it and trying to improve. So, I've only really like just been getting into like 18 plus keys now and stuff, which is fine, but still making mistakes. But yeah, like obviously
Mm.
like you've like if you really want to min max it, then you're gonna be like running a warrior, like unholy DKs and stuff. But that's like MDI and that's top stuff, right? But like realistically, you can time keys with like whatever you want as long as you kind of maximizing your
All,
team comp.
all I'm asking for in
yeah,
Shadowland is the ingredients to be able to cook what you want to cook. Like if you get good ingredients and you make shit, that's on you. But like I just want to be able to contend, even if I have to do more for it. I want to
Yeah.
be able to contend with the best, class that they can bring to Mythic Plus. I don't want them to take away my ability to do AoE damage because I don't have the spells to do it.
I think that's a
Like
good point.
it doesn't feel good. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah. That's a good
Well,
point.
well, rude. I would say
But
MDI is dungeon meta at the very highest level. Like,
Say again.
oh no, someone in my chat just said MDI is not dungeon meta. I mean, obviously meta is going to be what most people are playing, but like I
Okay.
think when you're looking at the very top level and that is MDI, then like that is the meta for them.
People try to imitate it, but yeah, no, like guys, I don't know. Maybe ranged is seeing more use in retail than I think. But honestly, playing a Destro Lock in Mythic Plus, I just felt like my toolkit just wasn't made for it. It just wasn't. It
yeah,
wasn't
that,
designed with this
warlocks
concept.
are warlocks are one of the least represented in Mythic
Mm,
Plus, for sure.
yeah, and I have three specs and none of them are represented. That's the
Yeah,
problem. Like
none of them.
I could go demo and do this, and no, I can't do anything. Like I just need
Demo's
the
a
different.
joke. Affliction. I never see affliction warlocks at all. I never see. You only see destruction warlocks these days, and then you never see any warlocks in Mythic Plus.
Yeah, I could never play Affliction. I've always sucked at it, and I don't know why. I
Well,
just,
Ben, that's kind of what I said. Like, I like when I clarified, I said like MDI like they are like hardcore speedrunning these like high keys for the most part.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Well, MPIs.
Something
I
here that was said, like melee is taken more because of their interrupts and basically stuns and utility and stuff. That is true. Like range have a 24-second interrupt and melee has a 12-second on Shaman. Like that's one of the huge issues with Mythic Plus right now is that you're reliant on having at least two 15-second interrupts, right?
yeah
You can bring a tank that has it and a melee, and you need at least that. So running triple range is hard.
It's much easier to heal a group of melees because they're all together. You get into the melee range and you just drop your AoE heals. When you have like two ranged and a melee or something, then your AoE heals or whatever, like your little circles you can flop on the ground, they just won't hit everyone. I remember having that on when I played Holy on my priest, like at the time, you see your sanctuary or whatever that thing was. Um, if you had a full melee group, it was a dream to heal them. If you had like two hunters and like a rogue, like you have to just use single target healing.
yeah. And like I think it's important to say that obviously there's gonna be a different meta. Like not even necessarily every expansion, but like every patch, shit is gonna be stronger at certain points than others, and that's fine, right? But I think it's also important, like you said, for you to be able to have the option to compete as long as you have it in your kit. And it doesn't matter if you have to push yourself a bit more, but as long as you can do it. And, like, sure, we can be talking about these really high plus 28 keys, but let's be real, because most of the player base isn't pushing these fucking keys. To most, like, they just want to do their plus 15, but if they're not getting accepted because they're a Destruction Warlock or a Boomkin, then that feels really shit, because they just don't have, like, as good a toolkit as other classes. It's fine if you want to be doing like this, plus 25 and stuff and really grind for like your 10 million Rio. But at the end of the day, most people aren't doing that. And like a lot of people care so much about it that they're getting cucked. I think it's an important thing to look at.
Yeah.
It's guys. I think good class design, honestly, is what makes or breaks the expansions. Is like
Sure.
even it's like if Destrologs feel good in Mythic Plus, that's a symptom of them having the tools to deal with Mythic Plus. If they have the tools to deal with Mythic Plus, then it's a simple, like they like to say, tuning knobs question of how to make them, OP or balanced. But it just doesn't feel like classes have the ingredients and the toolkits at the moment. It's like you have to pick and choose. Oh, I am only good at cleave. I'm only good at AoE. I'm only good at single target. I never liked that. I want to be able to be good at everything if I use my class correctly.
No, I agree with you. And I think, I guess people might have different opinions on it. But it's definitely a thing. And, for people that like don't necessarily want to, like conform to like the meta and like those really high keys or like aspects of the game, it's an important thing. Like, and sure, like you can just play with friends and stuff, but like you at least want to be able to have the option to feel more impactful in every piece of content. And like you can argue that's making classes too much the same. Like if you just give every class the ability to always do AoE, but at the same time, like you can change the conditions for some classes to be able to do it. So I think it's fine.
Yeah. Agree.
I don't know, but I know we like just critically discuss things and maybe even complain a bit about stuff. But I think it's more worry, and like obviously we want Shadowlands to be good. I mean, I know we were talking before, Leon, and like even though you're playing Classic, you are excited for Shadowlands and you want to get on that. But we're just worried that like it might not necessarily go in the wrong direction, but that they're gonna fuck it up. Because let's be honest, like BFA as an expansion is not great, and I still enjoy the game, so don't get me wrong. But there's like a lot of things about it that I don't like, and we obviously don't want to see that. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I honestly don't know what the answers are because there's a lot in the game. There's just a lot. There's so many moving parts now. There's so much legacy and so many things to pick from as to what they could do, and they always just try to do something new. Whereas they might have actually done something before that actually worked really well, and maybe they could just do that again.
Yeah, or even just
something.
change it up a bit. You reusing old content but modifying how it works, or like how you do it, I think is a good thing.
That's another point I wanted to touch on is you're playing, and WoW, you're always playing a patch. You're not playing the expansion. In classic WoW, like you're going to be running Molten Core until the day Burning Crusade comes out. Like it's still great to it's got great loot in there. It's still got pieces you can't really get from many of the other tiers. It's got a specific tier set with specific set bonuses, which you still might want in your kind of best and slaughter and patch itemization. And it just feels like, oh, I have so much shit to do. I could run Molten Core, I could run BWL, I could run Zul'Gurub. Soon I'll be able to run, AQ. I can also run Onyxia, and then after that I can also run Nextramus.
Yeah,
It's like, holy shit, I can literally pick and choose what I want to do. I don't feel pressured to. I don't feel like I need to do my like weekly resets and like whatever. But it's like a nice menu.
So when you hit like, are you going for rank 11 now? Yeah.
No, 10. I can't
Okay.
do 11. I can't play over 30 hours a
So
day.
so when you hit rank 10, like, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna play the game and chill and be like, okay, I've done that, or are you gonna play some other games? Maybe spend more time with the girlfriend. Like, what's gonna happen?
Okay.
Are you gonna hang out with me ever, dude? Let's go to the park next week.
Yeah, well, luckily
two meters apart. 2 meters apart.
Yeah, maybe a bit more time outdoors, nicely socially distanced.
Yeah. So,
In terms of WoW, I think I'll definitely scale back my playtime. I'll probably be doing raids, for certain pieces that I want, for certain reps and pieces. Probably be preparing for TBC kind of mindset of that like 5K gold milestone for epic flying. Maybe level a character. I'm a bit against having multiple characters. There's just too much maintenance. There's no ceiling to how much you can play then.
that's true.
But we'll see. Definitely draw back my playtime. I think I'd rather be playing 10 to 15 hours a week rather than 25 I'm playing now.
Mate, 10, 15 hours a week. That is nothing compared to degenerates like us. It's not healthy.
Literally.
But obviously, with the current circumstances, it's definitely a good way to sink some time. Which actually kind of leads into like one other thing I wanted to talk about. Because, obviously, since you've graduated, I know you've got a full-time job as a business consultant. You said it before in the intro. But like, what's a good way you actually like balance time between games and work? But then on top of that, actually keep motivation for work. Because I feel like for myself, find it very hard to stay motivated with other things, whether it's like piano or fitness or uni. At the moment, to be honest, I mean, I still crush it, but it's hard to stay motivated.
So for work wise, I keep checklists like in terms of I have planned out at least 3 or 4 days ahead a checklist of a manageable amount of things that I want to do that day, and it's as granular as possible. So even like sending out an email is on my checklist, and it'll be maybe 7 or 8 items for one day. And so I know as soon as I get through that checklist, I'm free to play my games and I'm free to do whatever the fuck I want, provided other things don't come up. Because obviously in a work day, shit's just going to happen and you're going to be dragged into meetings and you're going to have to do new things. So you always have to rebalance your kind of working checklist.
Makes sense.
I think, so I think just keeping a manageable and start small. If you haven't done checklists before, make really small ones. Make one that you can literally do in 15 minutes and then you're done and you're free for the day. It could be for your push-ups or your sit-ups for the day. It could be for like your work, obviously. It could be for your fucking. It could be with anything, right? But as you kind of get better at it, do it.
What was that, Pink?
So checklists help me.
I was saying like a little mini quest
so,
for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Idea.
And what about like motivational like forces? Like, I don't know. Have you struggled with that like over the past 2 months? Have you got the same level of motivation for your work? Because for me, it's really fallen drastically.
Yeah, so I'd say that I have. I think I've got a very good relationship with my work, and I'm quite fortunate in the work environment and the type of work that I do. Like, I really enjoy it. It challenges me in all the right ways, and I've got a team that I really love working with, and seniors that I really respect. So for me, it's been fine. I mean, it's been finding a balance. It's been not overworking. Like when you're at home with your laptop, like you're just tempted to not just always be there and always switched on, and just always smash out work when like you could wait till tomorrow or you could wait till the day after. I think it's just confining yourself to the kind of work hours that you have, and taking breaks often, and separating your free time from your work time.
Yeah, it's a good point. Definitely something I could learn a bit better, but my grades are fine at the moment, so I'm
not perfect at it. If I sometimes get into an altered valley and my girlfriend shouts.
I mean, it's weird, honestly, and like not trying to flex or anything at all, but over the past 2 months, I've literally just been playing WoW, and I had the final exam for 45% of my grade, and didn't even study for it because it was online. So what was the point? I got like 74% for it. I'm fine with that. Like, yeah, I smashed it. It's good, but I feel like I feel like this is encouraging me to not study for future exams, which is something I don't want to get into the habit of. Because like before this whole situation, I had this fire burning underneath me. I was working like all fucking day, every day to get the top grades, and I was doing it, and it felt really good. But now, like with this whole new pattern, the motivation has just disappeared, and I've got like this one semester left to write my dissertation, and like I know I'm gonna get on it and fucking smash it. But at the same time, it's hard to like get started or even think about it.
Sure. I think so something that helps is just having a bit of variety in your kind of to-do list, and then just the things that you want to do. So you kind of jump between different things. So maybe it's piano, and then it's a few push-ups, and then it's a bit of your assignment, and then it's a bit of WoW, right? And you can basically just bounce around, and each task is really small, but actually it all adds up to quite a
Yeah,
lot.
that's a good point. Yeah, no, my variety right now is like Mythic Plus, rating, visions.
Like for me, for example,
Editing.
40k honor per day. That's what I'm getting, and once I get it, I stop.
Oh, like the amount of honor?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Dark Season 3 though, I'm excited. Guys, if you on the YouTube you're watching, you haven't seen Dark, it's such a good Netflix show. Pink, have you seen it?
You won't watch it until it's done, and I'm like, please, I want to watch.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, you can see it
Check
in
it
German
out.
as well. You don't have to
Watch it, yeah, watch it in German. Use subtitles if you want. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But
It doesn't need subtitles, is what I'm saying. You can just watch it.
yeah,
I
true.
can just watch it.
Pink can just watch it. I'm jealous. But I don't know.
Hello, my name is Doc.
So Pink, do you have any final words, any topics you want to go over? I'm happy to talk about other stuff.
I mean, not really. I think this podcast was really interesting. Like Leon, like all your experiences are great. And we shared a lot of them. Let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah. Sure.
I remember meeting you, man. I was advertising in trade chat, like, hi, I'm just leveling a priest. It's like, what up? Looking for a raid guild when I hit max level, and you guys were like, hey, we're raiding heroic. Do you want to join? I'm like, I'm not even fucking level 70 yet. What the hell? I got in anyway, like, and then you promoted me to GM like 3 weeks later or something.
Yeah, my voice was too squeaky. I was like 13. I was like 12, I think at the time, to be fair. Dude, literally, like, I was like, oh, I can't lead a guild. Like, literally sound like a girl. Like, no, only girls can raid guilds.
Well,
Like,
I remember you when you were 13 as well.
12-year-old boys can't lead.
You sounded so Russian when you were 13, dude.
Really?
You had such a strong Russian accent. You sounded like a little Russian girl.
Because they're all Eastern European.
And I had like this thick Aussie accent back when I was 13. Do you remember like when I first came to the school, everyone like kept telling me to say shit, and then French class was horrible because my accent did not match well French.
Shrimp on the Barbie, something like that. Yeah.
Mate, we don't even eat shrimp in Australia. We eat fucking prawns. Get it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I gotta thank you too, because I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast if it weren't for you, because I would never would have met Pink since you introduced me to WoW.
You make fun of me, like it is
I
what
used
it
to
is.
make, dude, I used to make fun of you for playing WoW and watching anime, and now I do both of those things, and they're honestly
Like,
decently big parts of my life. Like,
You even make AMVs, dude. Like, you're such a nerd.
dude, Leon showed me AMVs, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude, I can make these. And like, I remember sending you like the very first clips of shit I made. I was going through my Google Drive the other day, and I saw a thing called like teaser for Leon, and it was like one of my first videos. I remember you saw all my like Why We Fight videos like before they were released.
Oh yeah, bro, I was there.
It was sick, man. It's good.
Beta, yeah.
I used to make fun of you for that shit because I was like this edgy, cool, like 13-year-old, and I was like, wait, man, this nerdy shit is so good. I love it.
And you saw One Piece, and you were sold.
Dude, I didn't. Do you remember like when you and Tom were watching One Piece? I was just like playing Call of Duty by myself because I thought it was so fucking lame, and I just got bored and started watching it with you, and it was like the East lobby or whatever, and I was like, this is sick. Like they're punching each other, and his arm is going like 100 meters. It's so cool.
You were fucking reluctant as well.
I was so reluctant, but I got so into it, and then I watched One Piece from the start to finish, back like twice. I watched it all the way through, and then I watched it again.
Yeah, man, this was fucking crazy, man. You picked it up, right? Picked up and ran with it.
You know, some could say you made me.
dude. I put a seed in the ground. And the
Yeah,
rest
yeah,
was
of course. You breeded one of the worst fire mages to ever exist on this planet.
That's it, man. What sprawled was a shit fire mage. We can all thank God for
I'm
that.
a melee player, just by heart.
Kidding, man.
It's all right.
Can I
Yeah,
just
but now he has the power. Sorry.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, can I just give a shout out to Ben's 80k Holy Light in Icecrown Citadel? On my
Oh
Warlock.
my god, dude.
What's the
Appreciate
story
it.
of this?
I don't really know. All I remember is I had 20k HP and Ben's Holy Light hit me for 80k in Icecrown Citadel.
We were
No, no,
testing. I remember the story, right? Because I was Holy Priest and Ben was the Holy Paladin, and we were testing to see how high he can get his heals for Velithria.
Hmm.
Like how big can he crit? Like that fucking like 12-year-old edgy shit.
Yeah,
My ambush crit for 2,000.
bro.
That's kind of what we were doing. And so he stacked all his spell power shit, and I put Guardian Spirit on you and gave you the 10% heal from him and all this kind of thing, and then it's just like, bang.
I had like demon armor or something. It was, yeah.
Leon, that's like years ago when I was like 15 and my brother wanted to talk to you, and my brother's just like 13 at this point playing WoW. He's like, "Hey Leon, hey, what's your biggest crit?" And Leon's just like, "What the fuck? I don't know, like 2.5 mil." And my brother's like, "Whoa, 2.5 mil? I've only done 1.8. Oh my god!" It's just like it is really that edgy like 13-year-old shit where it's just like, "Hey, what's your biggest crit, dude?" It's like, "Well, look at that number. Look at the numbers. What?"
Dude,
There's an add-on.
we had another Endly and Tomb Raven, the dynamic duo.
Yeah, dude, great tanks, man. Like seriously.
Wait. Before we end the podcast as well, Leon, do you remember when my account got hacked? When I was new to the game?
No, I don't remember.
All right, so it's a funny story because I was like, I was definitely 15 because I had like recently finished up leveling in Mr. Pandaria, and obviously you like got me the ahead of the curve the first day, which is funny enough in itself. But then like a few weeks later, I didn't know any of this shit about WoW. So like for example, there's that warning to never give your password to like people that claim to be GMs in chat. So like this dude messaged me and he had like the GM logo and everything. He was like, "Hey, there's a problem with your account." I was like, "Holy shit, how nice of this guy to actually message me in game. That's crazy." He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need to just check your password." I was like 15 and stupid at this point, which kind of remained throughout time, but let's ignore that. And I gave him my password. Yeah, shut up, dude. And then I gave him my password. I lost my account. I was like, "What the fuck?" And then after like a day, I was speaking to like customer service on the Blizzard website. And I was like, "Hey man, my account got hacked." And he's like I was talking to some GM game, gave him my password, and don't know what happened. He's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to do that." I was like, "Oh, I literally had no idea. Like, can you help me out?" And then when I relogged into my account, I was like, I mean, jokes on that guy because I had no fucking gold or gear on my character anyway. I was like freshly ding 90. Like he really fucked up. But like I was naked in like the middle of the desert outside of Ogumar, just like with nothing in my bags, and like the real GM like just restored my shit. It gave me back like my 200 gold. I was like, "Thank you." That's my story. I felt robbed, dude. So abused.
Yeah.
Don't like never again.
I gave my logins to a couple of friends at school who were like they were low-key making fun of me for playing, but then they were like, "Oh,
they wanted to play.
Level 70 warrior. Let me try that out." I never saw my account again. They were like, "Oh, don't know what happened."
They actually took it.
Yeah, dude. I never logged into that account again. I had to create a new one for Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think they took it. It could have been a crazy coincidence, but
why didn't you beat them up? Did you beat them up?
Huh?
Did you beat them up?
No, because I wasn't sure it was them, especially at the time. I didn't
Bro, it was them. I'm telling you now. Find them.
Obviously
it was them. Dude, you got
We'll track them down and we'll chaos bolt them.
Give me my warrior back.
Fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Pink, you ever been scammed or anything in any sort of way or no?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, so this is kind of a weird story, right? And
wait, you told me this one, right? Yeah, tell the story.
Did I?
Yeah, I think
Maybe.
so.
So this was in late TBC, I think. Someone came to me and said, "Listen, I've got a Swift Spectral Tiger code, and I wanna sell it." And I said, "Oh yeah, no, I'm totally down to buy that." At the time, I had like 100 gold or something on my account, like really
Okay,
poor.
I don't know this.
So I asked Thad for the 5k gold because Thad always had a lot of gold, right? And he was like, "What do you want 5K gold for? Like that's a lot of gold, man." So I'm getting the Swift Spectral Tiger. He's like, "It's pretty cheap. Okay, here you go. I want it back though." All right, took the gold off him.
Oh
I went
no.
to the guy. I met him in Ratchet. He was a level 1 goblin in Ratchet, and I was like, "Listen, I need proof that you have the code, man, before I give you this gold." And he sent me a screenshot of the card because it's a card with the code on, right? But the thing hadn't been scratched off yet, so I couldn't see the code. I was like, okay, no problem. I trust you. I gave him the gold. He was like,
Aw.
okay, I'll send you the another picture with the code. Give me a minute. Logged off, and yeah, that was it. Like, then I reverse image searched, and it was the top result in Google
Ah!
Images.
How much was 5k gold in that time equivalent to now?
Oh
Oh,
god.
a
The gold
lot.
doesn't matter now. It's a different thing. Like back then, 5K gold was your epic flying. It was like everything you'd live to grind for it.
How did
I
you?
also never paid that back, by the way.
Oh. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, especially when you're new to the game, or just an idiot like me, sometimes to be honest, you're gonna get scammed. Like it happens. You don't need to beat yourself up over it, and just learn to never fucking trust anyone on the internet unless you actually know them, because chances are they're a piece of shit.
Yeah,
I'm a piece of shit. I'm a piece of shit.
Big,
Yeah.
you should tell the
But
story of that the guild bank story with the you told me.
oh man, where I scammed people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it
Holy shit.
wasn't really a scam.
Cal, I'm looking at you.
Dude, like this was my big money heist, dude. Like I was so into this. My first ever character that I created was a human warlock called Emonic, like demonic, right? Emo, lol. Um, and I got it to like level. I can't remember if it was around like level 12 or 20, but it was like basically level 20. I joined this casual like social guild, and it was all fine and dandy. And somehow I got into the position, I think officer or GM or something, where I had access to the guild bank. Like I didn't ask for it; it just happened in some way. And so I was like, "Oh my god, I can take the gold! Oh shit!" So I took the gold, 20 gold. I took the 20 gold, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get banned. So I made a new level 1 character, sent the 20 gold over, and deleted my warlock. They can't track me now, lads. I'm on a mission.
Bro, 20 gold's like nothing, man.
What is
I
the
know.
point?
It was literally like 20 gold. You could like obviously this was like vanilla, right? So it
Even
was
that's
something.
not so much, man. Yeah.
No, it wasn't much. You
I,
confirmed
I
that
guess
in
if
the
you're
game.
like level 20 though, you're like, holy shit, 20 gold, dude. I only have like 17 copper. That's crazy.
Yeah. I had a few silver, I think. I was like, oh, 20
Yeah.
gold. Damn, this is gonna make such a big difference. I can buy all my gear.
Dude, can I make an honorable mention to Nomlier, by the way?
Oh
The
my god.
Yeah, I'll go for it.
uncap tank on what was it, on Rotface? Where did he have one banged?
That's the god, I think, right? Where he breathes in the thing.
Yeah.
He breathes in 3 stacks, and dead.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
cap boys.
Yeah, I actually told this story to Pink recently. Because like I like told him a secret. I don't even think I was streaming it, but it's like the one time I kind of scammed people, and it wasn't with the gold or anything. But I was like, it was back in Warlords of Draenor at the in Blackrock Foundry or something, right? And back
Yeah.
then it was Loot Council, right, Leon? I remember it, I'm saying like it was Loot Council, and pretty much I was doing this pug run, and these guys were all fucking shit. Like I'm like not just trying to defend myself. They were all fucking annoying and shit. And like I was carrying them, and I just wanted to get my loot and get out. And like from this one boss, I needed literally every single piece of loot. I was like, this will fucking help me so much. So pretty much like let's fast forward a bit before we go back. But Pink sent me a message. I'm like new into like a casual mythic guild, and I had just started playing the game, the expansion before. And then Pink messages me and he's like, "Hey Joey, I got a whisper from this guy, and he says that he says you stole all the loot from a heroic run with Loot Council. Is that true? Because obviously, as a guild, then we have to be respectable. Can't be doing that kind of stuff for the community. Obviously, I'm on your side, but I don't but you know, I just want to know the truth. I was like, yeah, dude, those guys were just like really mad. Like, I left I was the leader and just left the group, but didn't take the loot, and don't know why they would say that. And Pink was like, fair enough, dude, I believe you. Like, it's okay. And then Pink and his girlfriend Ali were literally saying like, no, Joey wouldn't do that. Joey wouldn't take the loot. And then like literally a few nights ago, I was telling Pink like, oh yeah, no, I took the loot. Like, I took all the loot. It was like. It was such a nice upgrade. I took the trinket, I took the ring, I took the cloth, man. It was fucking great. I took the
We
pieces.
didn't believe
Dude,
it, dude. We could not believe it.
Dude, I took the pieces of loot I didn't need. I didn't even trade out the stuff I didn't need. I took it all because I hated that group so much. I was like, I think I literally said something like, you're all assholes, and just took the loot and left.
Dude, see, in Classic, you can't do that. You need to then transfer from that server. You need to, like, never log in again. Like, you're...
No.
Yeah.
To be fair,
Hey,
though,
Dan,
like...
Do you remember? Sorry, Joey. Did you
Oh,
remember
good.
this? Do you remember the loot drama we had with Muradin Spyglass on Loot Ship?
Oh my god, dude, that broke the guild. Like, I didn't even care about that item and just kept breaking the guild.
Yeah, man. Like we had the Shadow Priest Kyoko, who was a pretty good Shadow Priest at the time, I think. But we had promised her the Muradin Spyglass trinket for I don't know how many weeks because it wouldn't drop to fuck, right? And then we recruited a shaman. I think it was Space Dog.
Yeah, Space Dog, dude. Fucking leader of Team 2.
Exactly, no. And the first raid he comes on, the spyglass drops, and we don't even roll it out. We just give it to Kyoko because, like, we promised her this for ages.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes mental, like, why would you give that to a woman and all this kind of shit? Like, what? the fuck?
Did he actually say that?
He did, actually.
Oh man, I wasn't there, but fuck, I didn't know he said that.
Dude,
You
what the
did, you
fuck?
were there, what?
Dude, no joke. I can't believe people like that. Like, I know people like that exist, but it's so weird. Like, what the
Dude,
fuck?
Space Dog was very toxic, dude. The guy was...
Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? That's
He was actually a decent player as well.
Did
but
you-
He had good
but
numbers.
that kind of
Very
drama is
cool.
not on though. Like,
He was a trial at the time, and he demanded the trinket.
he
I
was
was
a
like, what?
trial and he demanded the trinket because. So what the fuck?
Did you remember, Pink? Pink, do you remember? The file!
Yep. Defile. No one listening to the file calls. Everyone just standing in it. It's like, okay, listen, Kyoko, sorry for being sexist, but you're the girl. You call it, and everyone listened. Everyone was just like fucking booking it out of the file.
Looking out of it.
Fair enough. I can see how that works.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is though, like when I like just to finish off my thing before is like when I scammed that group, like I took the loot, whatever, big deal, it fucking happened a lot. But when I did that, I felt so horrible. I was like 15 years old, and then Pink came up to me, like messaging me about. I was like, "Holy shit, I've made a mistake,
Bloody
man!"
friends.
Like, dude, I felt so bad. Like, I literally thought I was gonna get kicked out of the guild. I was like, "Holy shit, if Pink finds out, he's gonna kick me." And then actually, like when I said a few days ago, he was like, "Nah, man, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm on your side." But I felt horrible. But at the same time, I had this crazy rush of adrenaline because I was like, I just fucked all of these dickheads over. Like,
Yeah.
it was like this balance between power and guilt. It was really weird.
Strange.
That kind of guild drama though is so weird. Like, what happened with the guild afterwards with the trinket and stuff? Did the space dog stay, or like how do you like fix
No,
it?
we actually kicked him that raid.
Good, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Bro.
It was Team 2 anyway, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good,
And
dude.
we actually continue. We got, I think the guild itself progressed to 11 out of 12 heroic, but I did kill Lich King heroic like the next week after.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to go to boarding school, so I didn't get the Lich King heroic kill.
Rip, that sucks.
Big rip.
Yeah, but you can't be saying that shit. Like, especially imagine you're like a trial in a new guild, and then you're just like, whoa, give it to a woman? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
Crazy, man. But actually, my craziest raiding story from that guild, and I think this is like one of my most nostalgic moments, is the day we killed Lich King normal mode, man.
Oh, yeah.
So my PC broke on
Yeah.
progress night. No, sorry, not my PC. My internet connection broke. That's what it was. And I couldn't raid, so I was like, oh no, I can't not raid. Right, this is like super nerdy, like committed bullshit. I couldn't.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Right, I was just like, shit, listen, I need to raid. So what I did was I packed up my PC and I went to Thad's house without telling him. And I was like, Thad, I need to raid. Can I plug my
God.
PC in and can I raid? And he's like, okay. Like he was standing there in his pajamas or something.
Yeah.
Was it at the same house?
No, I like literally put it in like my PC in like a bag and I walked to his
No,
house.
I know, but like, because I remember I visited him when like his place in Ireland. Was it the same place or?
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
probably
though.
wouldn't have
They
been.
usually
That's
go
what.
Joey. Like
Was he?
way before that.
Yeah,
Was he
this
not?
was like Wrath
Yeah.
of Lich King, man. This was
Was
years
he?
ago.
Was he not raiding then?
He was raiding what?
Like was he raiding with you guys when you came over to his house or?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah,
he was in the raid team. He was a hunter, and I was a holy no discipline priest on Lich King, right? But
yeah, of
mainly
course.
priest healer. And so I went to his house to try to set up my PC, and it turns out he has no Ethernet cables, and I didn't have wireless on my computer.
Oh
So I was
my
like,
God.
oh, this is terrible. This is so bad. So this was like 3 hours before raid start or something, and we trying to find a way around it. It turns out his sister's laptop had WoW installed, but it wasn't patched.
Oh yeah, I remember this, man. Fuck.
Yeah, it was such a garbage laptop as well. Like it was like 10 frames per second or some shit. Like
And you played
literally
on that?
terrible. What?
So you brought your PC and played on his sister's shit laptop?
Yeah, but it wasn't just on the laptop, right? I couldn't run TeamSpeak or Ventrilo, I forgot which one we used, but I couldn't run the voice program because it broke. Like it just wouldn't work. The frames would be too low. It just didn't work. So I was supposed to be raid leading, but I was on a sister's laptop, and I had it on like a dresser, so I had to hold my hand up like this and the mouse down here.
Oh my God, that is
And
so
I
scuffed.
had no leg room. It was just like
Bro,
so bad.
Your commitment.
So
Holy-
during that raid, Thad had the microphone hung over his shoulder, and I was shouting at him to raid lead while also on this shitty little laptop. And that's the fucking night we killed the Lich King.
Dude, yeah.
That is the most scuffed thing I've ever heard. Like, what is that commitment to World of Warcraft?
Dude, that
What the
guild, like
hell?
a tune, was like nothing you've ever experienced, man. That was dedicated.
Dude,
raiding.
I love that you brought your fucking computer over and then you ended up using a shit laptop. That,
Drive across the country. Like,
bro, that's like the equivalent of like today your computer doesn't work, so you fucking bring an iPad to Starbucks to play WoW.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been easier just to say, listen, guys, my internet's fucked. I can't play today. But no, I was like, no, I will raid today.
tonight.
Damn.
We will kill the Lich King.
I wish I was there
Yeah.
back in the day. Obviously, I didn't play any
Dude,
WoW.
those
My-
were the days. Those were the days.
My parents
for
actually
sure.
forbade me from playing WoW when I was younger because my dad seriously did not trust paying any sort of money over the internet for
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
longest time. I was like, I really want to play World of Warcraft. Like this game looks so cool. Can you please just pay like whatever, like $10 a month? And my dad was like, no. And I was like, but my friends like Sam and Tom have it like, and they're down the street, and it's completely fine. And you know their parents, so it's good, right? My dad's like, I don't care what they do. You're not playing it. I was like, and I really wanted to play it because I saw the druid and like he was swimming in the water, and then he was a fucking deer, and it was like so cool. But yeah, I never fucking got to play it.
What about game cards? Did you not know about them at the time, or was you against them too?
Game cards? Oh, those
You could
things.
buy game cards.
I didn't know about them at the time. I thought you just had to pay
Yeah,
online.
fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Rip. But it was always a game like I kind of like had an eye on too, like before I even played it. And obviously like I kind of made fun of you sometimes for playing it, Leon. But like I'd go to Fnac, right? And I'd see the World of Warcraft like Wrath of the Lich King thing with the Lich King on the front. I was like, dude, that looks sick. I want to play that. But had no idea, like just never played it. I just stuck with Call of Duty. So which is fine.
Yeah,
but...
dude. That's 10-man rating though, dude. That's the kind of commitment you heard from Pink is that it can only happen in a 10-man guild. Like,
Yeah, that's
it's just
true.
like you're a big percentage of what needs to happen here.
I'm a big advocate
so-
for 10-man guilding or 10-man raids. It's a shame, really.
Bring back 10 man, let's go.
Never gonna happen, most likely.
Yeah.
But,
It won't, because there's more than
I-
10 classes now. But...
Guild.
but Leon, you're
I think I
gonna.
can't take the guilt of wiping us on that putricide attempt. You remember that putricide heroic attempt that got caught in the wrong side of the
Yeah.
room with the green slime?
And then you got rezzed and insta-died again.
Yeah, rezzed into another slime hit. Yeah.
Are you gonna be raiding with us in Shadowlands, Leon?
Dude, I will make no such commitments, but
You're
if the
thinking
game
about
is
it.
good, I will raid.
I'm not gonna make any commitments either, especially because I'm moving back to Australia in January. But
True.
if the game is good, then I may consider playing tank and continuing with the guild.
Mhm. As long as you taunt 2 seconds before the required taunt time.
It's not that bad because it's constant. It's like honestly, it's like 330 like constant ping, but it feels like it kind of feels like 100. It's still bad, but it's playable if it's stable. So
Yeah,
it's not too bad. But yeah, I guess that's about it. Any final words? Had a good 2 hours.
No, guys, I think I'm good. I'm pretty talked out. I probably need to get some water.
Yeah, me too, definitely. All right, well, that's been episode 3 of the Diving In podcast with Genisus, aka Leon. So yeah, thank you guys for sticking by if you did, and we really hope you appreciated the content. If you disagree with anything or just like want to drop a comment about your opinions on anything we talked about, then feel free. If you enjoyed the video, then please like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. Otherwise, we fucking love you guys. Now you get your kiss. Fucking beautiful. I love you all. Thank you for watching.